Aye.
Hayter, here. Larson,
Here.
Shannon,
Here.
Morris,
Here.
Ware,
Aye.
Schneider.
Okay, we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we dig deep into this, I guess I have a request for a agenda change. There's an item that needs to be added. Chris?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to propose to add the vehicle take-home policy for the PD to the agenda for this evening.
Do we need a second? If we do, I second.
Yeah, okay, we got a request and a second. I'd prefer to make it a communal decision, so we'll put it up for a vote. All in favor? Or do I got to roll call it?
No, just all in favor.
Okay, all in
You don't need a
favor?
vote, right?
There's no
No
objection.
votes needed? Okay.
No objection?
No. Thank you, sir.
Jackson?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll continue on now. First thing on here is Resolution 2020-017. I guess I got to read it to you since it's not in the packet. But this resolution is in honoring the 100th anniversary of Disabled American Veterans, DAV. Whereas the state of Virginia and the town of Haymarket is the home to countless veterans as well as their families and survivors, and whereas the DAV was founded on September 25th, 1920, and chartered by Congress on June 17th, 1932, in recognition of the organization's role as the official voice of the nation's wartime disabled veterans, and whereas in 1920 the DAV began representing the interests of veterans and subsequently developed a professional national service office corps, which has made DAV the nation's preeminent provider of claims assistance and America's injured and ill veterans, their families and survivors. And whereas in 2020, the DAV celebrates 100 years of serving veterans of the armed forces, their families, survivors, and communities. And whereas DAV continues to advocate and create awareness for many issues affecting our nation's veterans, now therefore be it resolved that the town of Haymarket mayor and town council honors the vital and ongoing role DAV plays in supporting the needs of veterans and their families in the United States and the Commonwealth of Virginia throughout 100 years of service, and now therefore be it further resolved that the town of Haymarket mayor and town council commemorates the legacy of DAV in service provision and advocacy throughout 100 years of history, and recognizes September 25th, 2020 as Disabled American Veterans Day.
Do you have any representatives here, sir?
Yes, we do have some representatives. I would like to,
Is there any way they could share for 2 minutes of what their organization is? Or is it-
yes, if I could have them come up and at the podium. And you can,
Mr. Mayor, Town Council, thank you for having us here tonight. We are very proud and honored to be here representing the Disabled American Veterans Chapter 7. We are hosted out of Fredericksburg, Virginia, but we cover over 9 counties that we serve. So I am the newly installed commander, and I got the pleasure of taking this over during the pandemic, which if you can't add more stress to it, let's just add that to it, right? As the mayor read, the DAV started after World War I, which was when Congress was not able to meet the promises of the care and benefits that they had given to the World War I veterans, so the DAV was started after that. Our mission is to take care of veterans regardless of who they are and when they serve. We do this through, I believe the gentleman there said his father up in New York. I also started in New York through a gentleman that helped me with a claim for veterans assistance through the Veterans Affairs, because if anybody's ever seen the application for disability, it's 12 pages long, and the first 7 our instructions. So myself and a few others have had the privilege of going through training. We get annual recertifications, so we know how to do this. During the pandemic, one of the things I'm very proud to speak of is I was a part of the Emergency Relief Committee for the entire state of Virginia for the DAV. During the time of April to July of this past year, the DAV awarded grants in excess of $33,000 to our veterans in Virginia alone. Nationwide, the DAV had a $250 unemployment assistance grant. During that same period, we've given out over $1.5 million to 6,000 veterans nationwide. The only thing a veteran has to do is prove they're a veteran. We do not care if they're a member. We do not ask for anything in return. These are grants. They're not loans. We will continue serving this community and this state as long as we continue to grow. And with you recognizing us today here in Haymarket, we're glad to say that we're breaching new territory. So thank you very much for having us. With me is Mr. Dave Adams, he's local here in the area, and our assistant chaplain, Mr. Mick Martin. And myself, I'm a Navy veteran, so we're here, and we just want to say thank you again for your support.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Being a veteran, retired, and I've used DAV, I need a card. Do you have a card or point of
I
contact?
have several. Who would like one?
'Cause I'll be contacting you on another issue. Thank you for what y'all do, because you do make a difference.
Thank you very
Do
much.
make a difference, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I was Army, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
I'll get it after. I want, yeah.
Yeah,
Normally we
we're
get a
going to do a
picture.
picture moment
Yep.
in which we present this with them, and I think they have something that they want to present as well.
Yes, this being that it's probably the one and only time we'll have this in our lifetime, we also want to give you folks a certificate of appreciation on our behalf, and also give the council a challenge coin, which is for the centennial itself.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
We want to go down and take a picture, Dan?
Yeah.
Do I have to wear my cowboy neckerchief?
Yes. You're gonna be near Joey.
Yeah, we're going to be a little close quartered for the picture. We'll try and stagger.
Nothing, just a form. My phone, that's all right.
We'll try and stagger it.
The Air Force guys, we don't have the cake yet.
Yeah, sure, yeah, but he gets us in, he gets us in.
You okay? You're in front of me,
Maybe in the Air Force has transportation, you get on it, right?
No, it's Marine Corps.
You up one and Bob up one.
You see, the Marines, you just leave my
Hey, you're taller, why aren't you?
She told me to come up here. She said she wants to
Well,
beside you.
you can go up, yeah, I need to go
Thanks.
up on.
You may need to step up one.
So you know how I come down. And actually,
If he covers me up, that's fine.
If you want to get your presentation, so it gets viewed as well. Make sure you get in here too.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Smile. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Okay.
I was on the phone with my soldier right when I got here. I said I was on the phone with my soldier when, right before I got here.
Oh, good.
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay, meeting over. Okay. We got citizens time. I don't see anybody in the audience. Is there anybody on the list?
No, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Zoom.
Kim.
Are we still doing Zoom, sir?
What's that?
Sorry?
Are we doing Zoom? we are not.
Okay. Are we not able to? Maybe we can discuss that another time.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, minute approvals. We got a couple minutes here that need to be reviewed. Work session, July 6th.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend we approve the minutes for the work session from July 6, 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, you got a motion and a second. Did anybody find any errors that they want corrected before we vote on this? Okay, we'll put it up for vote.
All in favor?
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the next set of minutes, the regular meeting, July 6th.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend we approve the regular meeting minutes from July 6, 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, you got a motion and a second.
I do have a question.
Okay,
The very good minutes. This raised a question for me, and I don't need an answer right now, but I'm curious about the engineer's estimate for the Blight Drive to the church. So you can dig that out, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
okay, any more questions? Okay, we'll put it up for a vote then. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, work session minutes from July 27th.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the work session minutes from July 27th, 2020.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, who made that second?
I did.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion here to approve the regular meeting minutes dated August 3rd, 2020.
Second?
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, we'll put it up for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Okay. That takes care of our minutes. Now we'll go on to the other agenda items. Start with the IT proposal.
So this is to enter into a contract with Ralph and the Computer Doctor, which was the individual who met at the work session. I just need to work with Martin to bring their contract into our form to make sure that everything is appropriate.
So is it okay to content inform, though, once you're done?
There are a couple of problems. There was a $250 cap on all losses relating to lost data, and I thought that was kind of unreasonable. So I've spoken to Mr. Kuhn about that. We're going to go back to them and make sure we straighten that out. One or two other things.
And that was already agreed upon.
Okay.
So I did go back and he agreed upon that, so,
Oh, okay.
To what?
Agree to remove it? Or
to remove that amount.
So it's now as amended contract?
Well, so we have a form contract, the town has a form contract that Martin has developed. So what I need to do is I need to take the contract that he provided last week and the content of that and bring it to our form contract to ensure that it's the appropriate contract. Instead of paying for Martin's firm to review it in its entirety.
I do have a follow-up, if I may. So if I read this right, Martin, we're on the hook for the first year, no matter what, right? Am I reading this correctly? And then it's on a monthly basis after that?
Yes. I think that's right. that right, Mr. Coon?
Yes, so it would be basically all of it, it's the monthly cost. So you would pay the $475 per month, every month, and that would come with the remote access, the 3 hours of service every month, and all that is included. So it's a continuation.
But my question is, though, the first year, I think, if I'm reading it right, so we're on the hook for the first year in its entirety, regardless of what happens, and then every month after that is $475, or am I misreading that?
You can terminate with 30 days' notice.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
Mayor, I would move that the town of Haymarket enter into the contract as amended with the computer doctor for IT services pending approval from the town attorney.
I'll second that.
Okay, you got a motion and second. Any further discussion? Yes?
We have two separate motions here, correct?
Yes. The second
Yeah,
motion is for the,
Let's have a discussion on the first.
Before I close out the
Point of
discussion.
information here.
That is a separate motion, correct?
yes,
Okay.
I just provided it as one in case you guys were just ready to move forward.
And another point of information, so that's saying that this is for the services, the next one's going to be for the equipment, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Concerning services, sir, there is the termination of agreement indicates that there's a 30-day written notice by either party to terminate. Does anyone see a problem with that being too short of a time period? Especially knowing that we're discussing this now after 2 months and 8 days after we've taken office. Or maybe,
Do you prefer a longer period?
Yes. Mr. Krim, do you think this is standard, 30 days?
So my exposure to IT managed services contracts is somewhat limited, but I think generally people want to have a long period of time so they can do their business planning. So a longer termination notice period would be certainly consistent with that. I don't think they would object to a longer period of time, say 90 days, for example.
I would just like to get the feel from the council members if they think we should increase it from 30.
Well, I'm just curious what the concern is. 30 days on either side, right, either party would have to go out and try to find somebody. So are you thinking that if we extended it maybe to 60 or 90, that would give us more time? Is that your concern?
It would give us more time, especially knowing that we're putting safeguards in place where things we won't end up in the same position that we're in right now, where things may be deleted or changed.
Mr. Mayor, I withdraw my previous motion.
So I'm just wondering if 30 days is too short of a time period. So let's say he files for bankruptcy or he wants to move on to a different client. He has the option of giving 30 days notice to us for us to find a new vendor, find someone who can do the work. And we can stick to everything that is stipulated in the contract once Martin has reviewed it, but maybe increase the time period from 30 to 60.
To bridge the gap of finding
Yes.
someone.
Yeah, I now that you brought that up, Chris, because the concern, my question is, using that scenario, they file bankruptcy. Do we still have access to everything, even beyond that 30 days?
So if I might answer that, Mayor, in a business bankruptcy, the business generally continues to operate. It's just that they can't pay their creditors. They would still want to be in business so they could continue to get
Okay.
income.
Sure.
I don't think if the contractor went into bankruptcy, that would impact your services necessarily.
Okay.
But there are other risks that could certainly
That's-
occur.
Yes.
That's what Chris and I are concerned about, I think, so.
Bob?
It's actually the other risks that concern me if he just decides to withhold services or go out of business or whatever the circumstances are. And thanks, Chris, for pointing this out. And I think at minimum, we need to put this, or modify the agreement to 60 days on both parties' part.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Chris, is that something?
I don't think you'll have any objection to that.
He's been in business and he's reputable. So,
Correct.
but we just have to cover ourselves. So I too think Chris will bring, I think 60, I would definitely support 60 at a minimum.
I think it's a good idea.
I think that would be good. We did have the motion removed, so if you guys want to move forth with this and this contract with those added requirements.
Would you like to make your motion, Bob, with conditions?
Mr. Mayor, I would move the town of Haymarket enter into the contract as amended, with a further stipulation that the severance period be 60 days rather than 30 days with the computer doctor for IT services pending approval from the town attorney.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and second. Further discussion. I want to clarify, that includes what the town attorney has already recommended.
Correct,
On
as
top of what the
previously
town-
amended.
Yeah. Okay, everybody understands that, right? Okay. Any more questions?
This would be a roll call vote.
Okay.
Spending more time at all.
Okay, let's put it up for a vote.
Costello.
Aye.
Pater. Yes. Shannon.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Weir.
All right.
Okay, now that moves on to the second contract.
So this goes into all the recommendations that he provided to include the server, the additional costs for the Office 365, the retroactive saving, all those different items. So I think the $10,000 is very close to spot on once everything is said and done. You can see the different breakdowns that he has provided. So that's where I said the not to exceed amount of $10,000. And our goal is not to spend that much, it's just so that we won't need to come back to council for additional if something costs a little bit extra.
Yep. And Martin, any concerns with this contract?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
You may.
I move to authorize town staff move forward with recommendations from the computer doctor for town hall IT security with a not-to-exceed amount of $10,000.
Second?
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any further questions? Okay, just wanted to confirm that 10,000 was plenty for it. Okay, no more discussion? Roll call, please.
Costello.
Aye.
Pater.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Weir.
All right.
Okay, IT proposal item is done. Let's move on to the CARES Act Relief Fund.
Okay, so the CARES Act relief, this was Miles Freeman, if you guys remember. I did speak to Martin in regards to this contract as well, which he did mention. Miles kind of put together what he would like to achieve, like a 30,000-foot view. So we need some measurable goals. So I was able to work with Miles, and we're going to articulate some of what he said into measurable goals. And that's what's going to be put into the contract, that form contract that I need to do the same thing with Computer Doctor. I'm going to be doing with this as well.
Okay, you talk about measurable goals. The contract's pretty much a flat-based contract. Is this just for performance feedback later on, or?
Well, you also want to have the measurable goals to make sure that he achieved them. So that's really just so we can help review and exactly measure performance.
Yeah, okay, I mean, yeah, definitely we would want measurable goals just to see how, our project is performing, but I was assuming that this is really associated to the, what'd you allocate, 16,000 for his services for this project?
16. Yep.
So, yeah, it's kind of like a flat rate, pretty much, right? So measurable goals is just kind of where we stand with the project as we see it, so.
Well,
Okay.
and exactly, so, but still, at the same time, we have our expectations that we want to be met for that 16,000. So
Yeah.
that's where I want to make sure that when we have this provided, he's aware. And he was, and he was amenable, and he actually provided some of his own measurable goals, so that's what we'll work into the contract as well.
Okay, so are there any like out clauses associated with this, or if we do feel we're not meeting the measurable goals and we want to move on to something else?
Yes. I mean, the way that's going to be written up in your standard contract is you have the right to terminate for default. And so if he doesn't meet the measurable goals, you can terminate the contract at that point.
Convenience, no?
Sorry?
Just, you said at fault, not for convenience?
There's also a termination for convenience provision, but
Right.
we were specifically talking about the measurable goals.
Right. Okay.
What is the notice time on that?
I don't remember.
That's something in our standard contract, correct?
Right. Yeah,
Yes,
let me
it's
look
already
it up. I've
established.
got it on my phone.
Okay.
And just some of the performance measures that we have in there is the number of programs initiated and implemented, the number of businesses assisted and participating. So if it's like a voucher program, how many businesses are participating, because that's really going to be on him to kind of go and get that agreement and everything set up. The number of nonprofits assisted, the number of clients reached, so that's one of those things where we're talking about the families and individuals for food or some of those other items. And then it's percentage of funds distributed by December 31st, which, we're going to have our expectation that the majority, if not all of it, should be spent by December 31st. So those are some different ones that were provided.
Okay, yeah, I apologize for these questions. It's just, since I'm new to the seat, I'm a little ignorant to what our template is for a standard contract, so.
So, if I might, Mr. Mayor, the termination for default, it requires written 10-day business notice of default. 10 business day notice of default. And then termination for convenience requires determination of the town manager and the contract administrator if they're different people. And then it's just 3 days notice.
Really?
Okay. Hopefully that helps you guys clear up anything for you. But, okay, we got this on the table. I don't know if you have any questions or want to go right into a motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I move that the town of Haymarket enter into a contract with Miles Freeman for CARES Act consulting pending approval from the town attorney.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Opens up for discussion again. We good? Okay, we'll put it up for a vote. Roll call, please.
Casamalo?
Aye.
Hager? Yes. Shannon?
Yes.
Morse?
Yes.
Weir?
Aye.
That moves us on to town appointments. Yes,
Chris, is this the appropriate time to direct staff with respect to the public hearing for the CARES relief funds?
Yes, we can do that. I was going to put that in the treasurer's report, but if you'd like to do that now, we could.
As long as we're talking about CARES.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would ask the town council, direct town staff, or the town clerk to advertise a public hearing on Monday, October 5th, 7 p.m., to consider amending the FY 2021 budget to increase the adopted budget for that year in the amount of $295,452 for a new budget total of $2,896,046, so that we might appropriate and allocate the CARES Act funds. At 7 o'clock this afternoon, the county board allocated us the second tranche of funds unanimously.
I think I'll second that.
Okay, I got a
Directive.
motion, directive, Oh, this was a directive?
Objection.
Okay,
Yeah, motion for a direct, yeah, for a public hearing.
I guess open it up for questions. So my concerns, are we going to have our budget ready for this?
Because of the timing involved, I think this has to be a separate budget amendment so that we can appropriate and allocate the funds rapidly.
Okay.
In fact, I wish we didn't have to wait till October, but I don't see any way around that, unless you want to schedule another meeting that I don't particularly care or want to schedule and pay for.
October's good.
Unless Chris has a better option.
No, I was going to say, luckily Miles is willing to work with us. For example, he did come to the Business Roundtable today, so he's already willing to kind of help and understand that, that, like I said, he is here to help. So I think that we can still start getting some of this stuff taken care of prior to this getting allocated and him getting paid. So it is nice that he's willing to start that. So I don't think that will be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I would also direct the mayor to execute the agreement in a timely fashion this time.
Yes, we'll handle that rather quickly. Martin, actually speaking.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, there you go.
So I do have a question for Martin, though. So with executing that contract, will that take a motion of council? No, with the county accepting those funds for myself, the treasurer, and the mayor need to execute that agreement. Do we need to have a separate meeting or a separate action, since we've already taken it once and this is additional funds, but for the exact same thing?
What did we do the first time?
So we had a motion to approve,
To adopt.
accept the funds and execute the agreement.
So moved.
Can we do a conditional? Yeah, there you go. All right, I'll second that.
Okay,
That one will require a roll call, I believe.
yes, it will. Does everybody know what they're voting on?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll move for a vote, or we'll move on to the vote.
Casanello. Peter.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Morris.
All right.
Okay, and just to clarify, we did move that directive on forward, right? So staff is going to put a public announcement out?
Correct, and if you guys have any questions or need reference, I've provided 2 documents that you guys can use today until we actually have that public hearing. So that should have all the questions answered that you need. If you need any more detail, let me or Roberto know, we can help you out.
Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to town appointments.
So in the town charter, it is stated that the September after an election, the treasurer, clerk, and chief of police shall be appointed, and it is the September meeting after an election.
So is all 3 of these one motion?
Yes, so if you would like to read it in one motion, you would be able to do that in exactly how it's written.
Any discussion? Otherwise, Mr. Mayor, make the motion pursuant to Article 3, Section 113 of the Haymarket Town Charter. I move the Haymarket Town Council appoint Roberto C. Gonzalez as the Haymarket Town Treasurer, and pursuant to Article 3, Section 116 of the Haymarket Town Charter, I move the Haymarket Town Council appoint Kimberly Henry as the Haymarket Town Clerk, and pursuant to Article 3, Section 117 of the Haymarket Town Charter, I move the Haymarket Town Council appoint Kevin Lands as the Haymarket Chief of Police.
I second.
Okay, you got a motion and a second? Anybody have any questions? Put it up for a vote. I will roll call this one.
Casanello. Peter.
Yes.
Shannon.
Exclamation mark.
Morris.
Yes.
Lear.
All right.
Welcome aboard for another year. 2 years, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, just for the record, I make that motion because, and I think obviously everyone agrees, we have such a professional staff here. And it's really, it makes our job easier because they support us. So I just wanted to say that. Thank y'all for what you do. all of y'all. Chris, you weren't up there, or Emily, but thank y'all.
If I can add, Mr. Mayor, it's taken us a while to get to a place like this where we have a staff competent enough to do the job and allow the council to do its job. So, thank you.
Moving right along.
Right along, with a thank you. Okay, I guess we'll go into the town council pay structure policy.
So Kim was able to take what the discussion was at the work session and draw up this pay structure policies. So if you guys would like to review it and see if anything needs to be added or changed.
Works for me.
Looks good.
Looks good.
Robert?
I'm taking a pay cut, I'm fine with it.
Would you like to make a motion?
I would move the town council adopt town council pay structure policy 2020/09/08.
I second.
Okay, motion and a second. I don't think anybody has any questions, but just in case, last chance. Okay, we'll put it up for a vote.
Casanello.
Aye.
Pater.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Morris. Lear.
Aye. Somebody tell Marshawn he just took a pay cut too.
We'll hit up the fifth agenda item, the museum ornament.
So I provided a handout for everybody regarding the museum ornament pricing and the structure. So we have two options. There are several others, but I don't think we need to go into buying 1,000+ ornaments. So the two options I've given you here are a quantity of 250 or a quantity of 500. If we order 250 with a historic card insert, we're looking at paying $12.50 per ornament. And then if we get a quantity of 500, it's $11 per ornament. The shipping for shipping it to us has not come in yet, but I estimated about $75. So what I typically do is I take off 25 from the top. With our holiday event, we sometimes give out some of the ornaments, whether it be for prizes, a thank you to our sponsors for that year. Tracy Lynn and I are looking at some opportunities to do some prize baskets and get the community more involved through a Shop Small event in November, so we'd want to be able to utilize these here. So looking at the breakdown, if we get 225, once you take in everything we would earn at charging $20, you take out the cost of the ornaments and then the shipping, we're looking at net proceeds $1,300. If you do the same thing for the 500, so that's 475 that we're selling, we're looking at $3,925 in profit. And then Chris and I were discussing today, along with Roberto, some ideas we had. So one of the things we wanted to do with the museum, now that it's open on the weekends, is try to utilize Haymarket Coffee as an avenue for selling these ornaments, as well as our other merchandise. So I've done a little bit of an analysis here of what that would look like. We did want to put in there, though, that I think we're going to sell more if we don't accept only cash and check on the weekend. So, you know, here it's fine, we have the square cash check, but I think we're going to be able to make more sales on our ornaments Saturday and Sunday if the customer can swipe the card through Haymarket Coffee's system there. So what we're offering is that to help cover the credit card convenience fee, for every ornament sold, $1 would stay with Haymarket Coffee. So I've done the breakdown here. We also were looking at how we would bundle the ornaments together to encourage people to buy multiples. And then I also tossed in here the historic book. We do have a good number of those left, and Haymarket Coffee told me this morning that they had probably a good 5 or so people who wanted to buy them this weekend. So I thought that, you know, if we can go ahead and get that back out there. So I put a suggested price on here as well. The last thing, our current ornament stock for 2018, we have approximately 94. If we were to sell them and our bottom dollar that we made back was $14 on those, that's one of the bundle deals. We're still looking at bringing in a profit of $1,316. And for 2019, I have approximately 150 left. Again, same thing, $14. That's about $2,100. So this is all the profits after kind of doing all the analysis, the bundles, how many weekends we can have it in the museum prior to the holidays, all our fun plans we have. I would suggest the 500. I think that if we get the go-ahead tonight, I'll work up a pre-sale sheet with the photo, and I'll start pre-sales as early as next week.
Mr. Mayor, have you, I don't know, I've stopped by the Haymarket Coffee over here. They're getting a lot of people in there. They are really, really doing a good job. That is a great idea. And I support personally what Emily was recommending there.
One thing I forgot to mention, if we get 225, we need to sell 157 to break even and start earning a profit. And then if we get the 500, we need to sell 275 to break even and make a profit. Last year we got 500, we sold over 300, so we were bringing in a profit. So 18 and 19 are all completely paid for, and I would fully expect that 2020 would be completely paid for pretty quickly here.
So did we, if I may, did we have them available for Haymarket Day last year?
We did.
So we had the advantage of that exposure.
We did, and when I looked back at the numbers, we only sold about between 75 and 100. We had some of the previous year that you could buy, and then 2019 as well. They were stationed right outside of the museum, but the one thing we didn't do last year is we didn't do as many pre-sales. When I did pre-sales of 2018, I was sold out in 2 weeks. So I did have to order again 2018. I had to get another 150 last year. And we've sold another 60 of those.
So I like the idea of partnering with Haymarket Coffee, and I was there this weekend on, or was it Monday? It might have been Monday, yesterday. Really pretty vibrant. It's really nice to see. What about other partners in town, other businesses?
So what I usually do is I reach out to Details for the Home and some of our salons. So I try to look for the clientele who's going to buy it. And so a lot of times you either have the men going into Details who need the last minute stocking stuffers for the wives, things like that, or the wives who are looking for party gifts, things of that nature. So I've worked with them before. They've done a great job. So what we do there is they prefer to check them out, if you will. We start with a low quantity. They only take cash and check. They want to keep it simple. That's fine with me. And then I check in with them weekly on how many they've sold, collect the money back, give it to Roberto, and we keep a tight inventory on that.
We also have several different events that are coming
Yes.
up that we can correlate within
Yes.
to expose the ornaments. So
One of our quick plans, I'll just put it out there, not to take too much time, but we're looking at trying to do a small little Halloween event on Halloween. That is a Saturday this year, so that would give us an opportunity to have a town tent, get information out there, merchandise, things like that, as well as we're trying to look at do a shop small, shop local, kind of 3-week-long event, if you will, in November. So another opportunity where we can get it out there.
Go big.
It sounds good. So I guess to move forward, you need a direction on which quantity to buy, right?
Yes, and on the handout that was on the desk, I did put a motion in there, just you'll have to pick the quantity.
Yes.
I move town council to approve the purchase of the 2020 ornaments for a quantity of 500 ornaments for sale.
Second? I'm sorry, Tracy, you second.
No.
You're part of this. Vice Mayor's second. She's a big part of
Yeah,
this.
that's true, too, right?
Okay. Okay, got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussions. I don't think it's good. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Roll call.
Roll call, since it's money, yeah.
We got Martin's attention. Roll call.
For sure, I didn't catch it.
Okay.
Roll call. Casanella.
Aye.
Cater. Yes. Shannon.
Yes.
Morris. Yes. Weir.
All right. Nobody can accuse me of
Work
not
on
having a
that too,
holiday spirit.
Mr. Mayor. From the vice mayor and Emily and team, that's good work on that.
Yeah,
Really
and,
nice ornament, though.
we did have it in our packet, so everybody even knows what it's going to look like.
Yeah,
So
saw it. Saw it.
I'm anticipating the pre-sale.
Yes. Be ready next week.
The
Have your
bundle.
credit card ready.
I think the bundle is gonna fly.
Yeah.
I do too.
I mean, I even met with, just a real quick, I even met with two of our residents. The Masons came in after work today to discuss an event, and they're like, we have a town ornament? It's like,
Yeah.
We're obviously putting that on social media everywhere.
and we're gonna have a newsletter that's going out. I plan to have the draft done on September 28th for the work session, and then it'll get mailed that week, so we'll hit it early October in the newsletter as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll continue on. This is the new agenda item, which is the take-home policy for the police cars.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you would indulge me, I would like to take the council and residents back to 2014 when the new council was elected. We had a police department that was trying to serve a community with limited resources. The two main deficiencies were vehicles and salaries. The maintenance costs for our vehicles had driven up our budget, and because they were needed for the daily operations, we had no choice but to spend it. We purchased 6 new vehicles in 2017. The lease expires September 2022. The current mileage on these vehicles as of last week, 78,000, 49,000, 30,000, 52, 55, 71, and 76 on the old one that we kept back. Salaries was a wider issue because the entire staff, admin and PD, needed to be adjusted when compared to the rest of the state. We ordered a CASA report and started adjusting salaries. The police department salary had been significantly increased to be on the same level at other comparable towns in our state. Still a little less than Prince William County, but where it is at right now is a good level. I do need, however, before I go into my proposal, because our words carry so much weight in the community, I think we need to be extra careful with the words that are uttered from the dais, especially as it relates to our staff. Concerning the PD, it was uttered, we need to make deep cuts. We need to evaluate what police services we need. We only need 3 cars, and give the PD the 4,000 for now. Talks and comments like this discourages even the most professional workers, and I can tell you from experience that one of the worst feelings for someone dealing with the type of stressful lifestyle is to be worried about your job or taking care of their family. During our work session, it was proposed for a reduction in our fuel cost for $4,000. I objected because the right thing to have been done was to amend the policy, and the financial adjustments would follow suit. It is my intention, therefore, to propose the following. I move to adopt the draft no take-home vehicle policy provided by the Chief of Police on September 4th, 2020, for officers below the rank of a supervisor effective September 8th, 2020, pending approval from our town attorney.
Okay, I got a motion on the table. Anybody want to open it up for discussion? All I need is a second. Got me.
Mayor, I'll vote no on it. I understand why it's being done. I'm not going to argue it. It's not what I'm not going to follow my sword, but
Okay, well,
I don't
like I said, I
personally
need a
support it.
second before anything
Yes.
really goes on.
Discussion
Okay,
purposes.
we got a second for discussion now.
now for discussion.
Now for discussion.
I don't support it, but, it is what it is.
Tracy?
How many of our officers are below supervisor?
4.
4.
And we have a couple part-timers.
Okay.
But only
There's-
one.
There's
only
just
one.
2 supervisors,
Okay,
myself and the lieutenant.
so there would be 2 take-home vehicles?
Yes, ma'am.
4 would stay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And the spare.
And the spare, just get the
Yes,
spare
sir.
from-
And is that spare, we paid for that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'll just be very clear. I think most people know where I stand, and I support the no take-home policy. I don't think it diminishes the safety of the town. I think we worked really hard back in 15, 16, to really bring our police officers up to the proper level for retention as well as other issues. So I'm going to support this. So thank you for making the motion.
Anybody else have any questions?
Why is everybody looking at me? Like Councilman Passanello, I'm going to support it, although my reasons are a little bit different. Much the same, but a little bit different. I've been in this town long enough and served up here previously to know that this has been a hot button item for 15, 20 years now. And there's been a policy on and off, and it changes from time to time, depending on who's in office and who's not. I don't think anybody will be surprised that I look at this from a strictly fiscal standpoint and what's in the best interest of the town from a both from the standpoint of what the immediate costs are in terms of fuel, but also the long-term cost in terms of maintenance, wear and tear on the vehicles, and most importantly, long-term replacement of the vehicles. Ordinarily, I wouldn't make too much of a fuss about it, one way or the other. I mean, you know, my particular fiscal view of it goes without saying. But I have an additional concern now. I can't remember which council member brought the issue up. And perhaps this is something else that we need to address in the near future, and that's the security of the vehicles themselves, given what's been happening nationwide. I don't personally like the idea, regardless of what jurisdiction it is, whether that the vehicles are left in another jurisdiction's lot or potentially in somebody's driveway or someplace where there's not an active officer on duty to sort of pass by them or take a look at them occasionally to make sure they're not being vandalized or in other ways abused. It's an unfortunate circumstance that we're in right now, but I think to protect the town assets, we need to keep an eye towards that in addition to the fiscal impacts.
Okay.
What Mr. Ware is saying is if the council does vote to keep the vehicles here, we probably need you to start thinking how we can go ahead to secure them, whether it be electronically or build a fence around it. I think that's the direction he's wanting to go.
That's what I'm intimating, yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
translating it from English to Jamaican.
And we have an officer on, we have an officer on 24/7, so we'll make that a priority for sure. We always check the lot anyway. We may want to think about putting some cameras up around that was supposed to have been one of the items anyway after the building was done, that we need cameras around the building to protect our assets. So that may be something that we could do.
To that point, is the new physical security that we just authorized, does that include cameras? No. Okay.
That's a cheap,
IT?
but that, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a pretty cheap option, though, cameras. And,
Depends on how
You know,
secure you want.
depending on
Like
what-
ring cameras.
Yeah,
You know,
that's-
they're not
that's what I'm
expensive,
talking about.
but they're not commercial either.
They're not commercial grade, and they don't have the recording function that your regular commercial one did, but, you know, that's an issue.
ring
Oh,
apps
they
do
Yes,
do
they
record, yes.
In that case,
$1 a month.
In that case, without direction, I would ask the town manager to pursue those options
Right. Yeah, I
and
mean,
pricing.
on the Ring, that's basically a Wi-Fi, right?
Runs off Wi-Fi.
The question then becomes, I mean, it's probably a lot more cost, but do we want something hardwired which might be more secure. I mean, that would be something you'd want to take a look at, just to
that's-
understand the cost.
That would be my preference,
Yeah.
but,
I'll provide several options.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I mean, that also applies to the security of this building as well. So, I mean, two birds with one stone.
Exactly, precisely.
This building definitely needs cameras around it, monitored by at least the police department.
Right. I think that's a good idea to look
So
into
we're in
it.
agreement? Just checking.
We agree on a lot of things.
Okay, well, I think that this discussion is done. We'll put it up for vote.
Casanello.
Aye.
Hayter.
Yes.
Shannon.
No.
Morris.
Yes.
Ware.
All right.
Okay, that takes us to the next agenda section, the liaison reports. We'll start with the finance. Which one wants to take the ball?
I've spoken more, so you go first.
Okay, essentially, we continue to work on the budget. I think we'll have to factor in now the potential savings associated with the no take-home policy, so we'll quantify that in some way. Bob and I have been talking quite a bit about comparative analyses and things like that, but one of the things that I've always pushed for, and Bob started working on, thank you, is our exposure on taxes in the town. And it's not just the taxes we pay. I think what we want to do is to educate everybody exactly what their taxes go towards. For example, we pay a town tax. We pay other sales taxes and cigarette tax, yada, yada, yada. The thing that I think we usually miss in that discussion is what are we paying the county and how is that being allocated? So, for example, if you look at what Bob did, he did a rough back of the envelope. We pay roughly, we're assessed at roughly 275 million, somewhere in that.
Let me pull it up.
Okay, and then at 275 million for everybody in town, the real estate assessment, we pay about 3.3 million in taxes to the county. Now, out of those taxes, about 21% goes towards public safety. Now, public safety includes EMS, fire, PD, things of that nature. I think the sheriff and some other law enforcement. So we're trying to figure out, what exactly are we really paying for all of these things as we go through our budget so we better understand what we're paying for. And also, are we getting enough value from the county back? Okay. Yes, we have education out of that number, this, whatever it is, 52% or 51, whatever.
51.239, whatever the calculation is.
So we're going to go through this exercise on the finance side to better understand exactly how much are we really paying in taxes, and what are the benefits and the values that we derive from those. So,
To dovetail on Joe's point, those back of the envelope calculations are roughly the town residents and businesses in real property tax alone pay somewhere north of $3.3 million annually to the county. Of that $3.3 million, roughly a little bit north of $700,000 goes directly to public safety. That number is actually higher when you calculate how much of that is directly in support of the fire levy, and then the other taxes that we haven't had an opportunity to track down yet in terms of what the actual amount we paid as a town to the county are in the form of such things as personal property tax or business personal property tax and a variety of other taxes. My guess is at the end of the day, when you add everything up and the variety of different taxes that the residents and the businesses pay, it's somewhere in the ballpark of 5 million, perhaps as much as 7 million, depending on what the businesses are paying on certain things. So, I mean, it's pretty safe to say that we're paying, at least in my view, it's pretty safe to say that we're subsidizing roughly $1 million in public safety funding to the county for fire, EMS, and PD. And I think it's time that we understand that and that the residents understand that, and because it's not readily apparent in the bill that you get from the town, and it certainly isn't really apparent in the tax bill that you get from the county, but just to understand how much money they're paying and I don't have an issue with them paying that. I don't have an issue with paying that for the additional services that we get. But I think that number and that equation is frequently lost on the county, which tries to literally nickel and dime us for everything they can. And we're going to probably be having a discussion about that when the chief gives his report. We can kind of give an indication of what the attitude is towards the town, and I think it's something that we as a council are going to have to address with the county and perhaps with the county board, if not merely the county executive and the finance branch.
Any questions?
Is that something that's going to be put into the newspaper? Because that's a good, I mean, I like what you're getting at there. I, for one, didn't know everywhere my taxes tell exactly what they were doing, so I don't know. Is that something that's going to actually be put out, or how are we going to get that out?
Well, that will depend on how the county responds.
Yeah.
If you're curious, according to the county's own budget material, out of every dollar that you pay the county, 21.05% goes to public safety.
Okay.
Every dollar you pay into the general fund dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, just,
For every resident within Prince William? The
That-
21%?
That percentage is by and large the same. Some people, I mean, you're going to have people for various reasons that are exempted from various real estate taxes or other taxes, but at the end of the day, what taxes they still pay, it's oversimplifying it, but it's pretty fair to say that the percentage of their tax dollars remains the same. It's simply a matter of how much they pay. Again, you're even.
That makes sense.
and I think it's important that we understand where we stand, particularly when the county wants us to pay for certain items. Then we have better grounds to make an argument why we don't think we need to, because we're already paying our taxes. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and will this daylight agreements that the county has with us, as well as the agreements that the state forces the county to service us with, and other things? Because, I mean...
We'll be discussing that shortly, I suspect.
Yes.
If the chief has his way. And my way.
Because, I have had discussions with some of our citizens who said, what can we do towards our communications plan? Can we use the county services, any of their IT support services to actually give us capabilities that we may not have with our systems that we have in place today? And so that's what I was wondering. Will it daylight what opportunities we have to force the county's hand to service us?
Chief, I'm assuming that you're going to address this during your report?
Okay, and that's just one.
And we can build on that. We can build on that in that discussion.
Stuff and everything else that continues on with it.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll
I just want to, for the record, that Councilman Schneider entered the meeting at 7:55.
Hey, Marshawn.
Elvis is under the building, so.
Okay, was that it for finance?
Yes, sir.
Any question?
Has any questions
Yeah, any questions for finance?
or anything else?
Okay, we'll move on to the police department.
Mr. Mayor, if it's okay with you and the rest of the council, I would like to address these issues after the chief's report.
Okay, we'll come back to you after the police report then.
Thank you, sir.
Go down here.
Just in time, Marshawn. ARB.
What's that?
Okay. ARB, just in time,
Just in
exactly.
First of all, I apologize for being late. I have multiple bosses I'm serving today, so appreciate the concession. So ARB update, we did seat the new chairman and vice chairman. We talked about that last month. Also, too, Lidl came and previewed their project. Back when the Village Crossroads first came in, Lidl
Right.
had been one of the early grocers.
They were, at the time, they were putting contracts on land all over the region, trying to enter the market. The mayor and I had met with Don Wooden a couple weeks ago, just as councilman, to discuss kind of the status of the project. They're vetting 2 sites, one inside town, one outside of town. And I guess they wanted to get a test or kind of a sense of some of the concerns or questions we may have about the design. So they have moved away from their standard franchise model that you've seen. It's more of a less glass, more of the large sort of massing of walls. So they did go preview their initial architectural drawings. We had some feedback. There's a master design plan already for Village Crossroads that they try to incorporate a lot of the elements. And hopefully they'll do they seem to be receptive to some suggestions on how to blend the architecture within the area. I think when we see franchise models like Sheets and CVS, they do have models that can be customized to meet some of the local vernacular, so to speak. So overall, it's good discussion, good feedback. Emily, do you know if they're going to submit a formal?
I do not at this time. I've not received any additional comments from them.
Okay. We did thank you. We did thank them for showing interest in the town. The other site they're vetting is just on the other side of Home Depot, out where the Del Webb project is located.
Yeah, that's not a good site.
So,
They need to know.
yes. So,
Horrible site. Is that on the record? Good. Good.
we feel we have more to offer. And
We have a
accessibility.
police department.
So hopefully we'll see that there. I think we'll begin work soon on the overhaul of the design guidelines, and then hopefully get some training for some of the newer ARB members. It's nice to have some new faces on the ARB. Thank you.
Who's the chair?
One question, Mr. Mayor, if I could. Emily, I've not seen, has Crossroads, have they submitted an updated design?
No, sir, so they're keeping with their same design and site plan. They will have a couple tenants come in and submit specific site plans for that one pad site or 2 pad sites. So those may be coming up here in the next couple months, possibly the new year. But since our last meeting where Lidl came in and discussed with the ARB, we've not had any additional conversations with either the applicant or Mr. Wooden.
Okay, so this may or may not be appropriate to ask now, but so what's going to go in place of the hotel?
They do not yet have anything that is
Okay,
set in
so that's an
stone.
open pad right now?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
They have a couple options, and they might present an option to Planning Commission and Council, but nothing set in stone today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, on that, like Marchant said, Don met with Marchant and I, and we did discuss some options on that. We gave them some directions on what we would be looking for if they did put something in there, something that is more dense. How is that impacting with the traffic, with the light patterns, and I think Don has some type of direction from us on what needs to go before he presents it, and I think he's still weighing his options.
Because he came into the previous council and was talking about the senior assisted or whatever there, 200 or whatever it was, and we said absolutely not. As far as residents and all, we businesses, personally for me, I'm in favor of businesses. I would not be for more condos or townhouses. He's got 79 townhouses as it is now. So personally, I with what I know right now, could not support additional residents. So,
Yeah, well, like I said, that's one of the options,
But Dave,
but I
yeah.
told him, that you're looking at a very dense area, so you would definitely have to convince us with traffic patterns.
sure.
The question was, Sheridan King is the new chairwoman, and Susie Lurson is the vice chairman.
Another person?
What's that?
Coming out of the woodwork.
I have to get my wife involved now. I don't need another Morris.
Any other questions for Marshawn? Okay, let's go on to the Planning Commission.
I'll be very, very brief. The proffer amendment, the proffer amendment public hearing for QBE is scheduled for this month, the Planning Commission meeting, as is the question with respect to the SUP. We'll see how that works out. There are some questions with respect to timing that I haven't had the opportunity to look into this morning or this afternoon, and I will go forward further on that. Additionally, Marchant and Emily and I are working on some proposed zoning text amendments to correct, bolster, beef up, and otherwise make the zoning ordinance better. And hopefully, Marchant and Emily will both have some comments prior to the work session, so we can kind of get a sense of where the council wants to go in a direction. I'm getting a stare from Marchant.
I will work to achieve your goal.
Thank you. And that's all.
That sounds like a directive.
Okay, any questions for Bob? Get Steve back. No questions from you for Bob on Planning Commission?
No, sir.
Okay, Business Roundtable and Planning?
So we had our second business roundtable this morning. So it was the day after a holiday. We had a lower turnout than we were hoping for. So we reevaluated when our October meeting will be due to holidays. So with that being said, I've made stop-bys, I've made phone calls, reaching out to the business community personally to invite them, make them aware that we're back on board with the Business Roundtable. I think Emily's really expressed and delivered the plans as far as holiday events coming up, the ornaments, the newsletter, things like that, that we're just, gaining that momentum. And I think that within a few months, we'll find some good resource and attendance. Yeah.
Okay, any questions?
Well, I'm just happy to see the re-engaged in the roundtable.
Yeah, me too. Does this include, I guess, communication to the Haymarket Gainesville Business Association to try and draw them in as well?
So we did talk about that. I come in on Wednesdays usually. The past couple weeks have been at different times, but that is something that we've been talking about, to reach out and do that.
So I will just comment, I guess I am the liaison for the Haymarket Gainesville Business Association. They've been on a hiatus for quite a while, and their first meeting is actually September 15th. So Vice Mayor, if you'd like to go, we can get together and go to the next meeting on the 15th, and I'll set that up so we can go ahead and go.
I love it.
And don't forget to tell them about the ornaments.
I'm on a goal to reorder, so let's just be real about it.
Okay, any more? Okay, we'll move on then. Next section, department reports. Town administrator staff reports.
Yes, so the past month, we have been very busy with Emily doing newsletter, business roundtable, ornaments, plan reviews, everything she's got going on. Roberto, we're getting ready to have actually just scheduled the on-site audit, so the auditors will be here early November. So hopefully we can try and get that CAFR and that report to us like January, and then we'll work on the first draft of the budget and then present that to the finance liaisons here early 2021. Kim's been knocking out all our marathon meetings, so we've been all hands on deck working pretty hard. And you guys have my report, so stand ready to answer any questions.
Yes, I have a question. Did you want to go?
I'll take the first question, I guess. How about Prince William Gas, or whatever gas company we have? Will they be starting that?
So right now where they're at, it's a whole process dealing with the utility company. So we had to get the agreement get the check, and immediately, I mean, I don't think we could have got it to their office any faster than we did. Once that individual reviewed it, he then basically gave it his stamp of approval and had to mail it to Cleveland or somewhere to get another engineer to review it, to give their stamp of approval, and then once that happens, then it can be scheduled. As of today, it is still in Ohio on that person's review, so no, it has not been scheduled, and we are sitting at the mercy of Columbia Gas right now, and we do not have a lot of levers to play at this point in time. So we need to sit and wait for that review to happen.
So, Ohio, is that like a subcontractor or somebody that's?
No, I believe that's Columbia Gas headquarters.
Oh, that's their headquarters. Okay. What if we were to engage somebody maybe in Richmond to help us? Would that maybe?
I don't know enough about the subject. What are we giving money to?
So
Columbia Gas line?
so we needed to relocate the gas line here for the walkway project to install the stormwater system.
Oh, gotcha.
And where we're at now is Columbia Gas is the one that will be relocating that gas line.
You know, we're kind of at their mercy.
Well, I mean, and I think the frustration, at least the frustration that I've got, if I understand this properly, is that once again, the subject gas line that needs to be moved was not in the location that Columbia Gas said it was in. And this seems to be a recurring issue in the town, and every time this happens, it holds up our projects and we're on the hook.
Well, so just to reiterate, we also were on the hook for 48% or 52%? 52. So we did not take the full cost of the project on. It was because of that, I believe that's where the arrangement came from, to split the 48-52% split.
Nevertheless, if Columbia Gas knew where their gas lines were at the engineering, during the engineering process, we wouldn't have engineered that or factored that into the cost, and that's not the case. And like I say, it's not the first time it's happened in town, and I somewhat tend to doubt that it's the last time.
Marshall?
I guess because we're getting funded by the state, is there any utility in trying to do a workaround or re-engineering to get around it?
So this is going to be reimbursed. It's a cost to the project. So
You do a redesign, it has to go back to the funding and it just messes everything up.
I guess simply speaking, we just need to literally lower this down 1 foot
Okay.
over the span of 30 feet. So to re-engineer it at this point is bringing it into the road and putting some more turns in it, and it's probably not worth the effort.
And we've literally, if you look outside, you can see the stormwater system that needs to be installed.
Right.
It's on site, so we'd have to purchase new ones, and everything else is done. Literally, we need the gas line moved, and
They
once
can
that's
come back.
moved, we're going to put the stormwater system in and connect it, and that's it.
I was asked that question, and I figured I'd bring it to you, but I assumed that was the answer. So
Yeah,
thanks.
so I mean,
Thanks.
that's why we actually went and asphalted the walkway, because Miss Bailey was putting up with it, that, you know, it was going on longer than it had to, and that was something. So the only thing we have left is moving that gas line, installing one stormwater system. That it's actually here on site if you guys want to look at it, and then once that's done, then they're going to close up the road, re-asphalt, and paint, and that entire project is done. So this is just, we're
And
at
so,
mercy.
and so there's no projected date. We have no idea. Would it,
And we're doing the best we can to our Rinker design.
It was projected that once it got to Ohio and the engineer up there was reviewing it, that we'd have about 2-week turnaround time. We are in week 2 with the holiday weekend, behind us now. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'd be wrapping up the end of week 2, so.
okay.
Just
maybe
one
next
comment,
week.
Mr. Mayor, if I could. The person is it Prince William Gas? Is that what they're called?
Columbia.
Columbia.
Columbia,
Gas.
oh, Columbia Gas. They have a corporate headquarters. My feeling is if you don't get satisfaction, if they don't come back within this 2 weeks, you call corporate. You go up the chain. You try to work at the whatever level you can, but if need be, go to the top. You know, they need to understand what's happening here, how they're holding us up because of their failure to mark utilities properly.
Their corporate
Just-
headquarters is Columbus, Ohio.
So and that's where it probably went, but there's somebody up there that's over the people, whoever it is, looking at that. So I'm just saying, if you have to, you go to corporate. I don't know, Joe, with the railroad, that happened a lot, didn't it? The people didn't get satisfaction, they went to the,
I have some long stories, but too long for tonight.
A letter from the mayor, come on.
I'm just saying, we give them that opportunity, that 2 weeks. Just my feeling is, if they don't come through, then we run it up the chain.
Best case scenario, they start next week.
Yeah.
We'll be positive. We'll keep you guys updated, and we'll get something out Monday morning on where they're at. I'm hoping
Okay.
it's good.
Yeah, well, I've gotten my share of complaints about it taking so long, as well as the plates moving. Last time I checked, they did a really good job of patching it this time so that it won't move, but that doesn't mean we still need to do a reinspection. If we could put that in your cycle of spot checks, Chief, on, during the town rounds, that they do check that out for movement.
And our
Being in the roadway, it's also a VDOT issue. So you may want to get with Art Kloss. Art may have some pull, unless, have you already done that?
So I was just gonna share, so about 2 to 3 times a week, our project engineer with RDA comes out, Rami. He checks the site, he does the whole walk, whether they've done work or not. And then our contractor, thank you, M&F, there to come out every single week. They do make a good point to come out on Fridays, check it prior to the weekend, and they do any repair work. Since it all falls under their VDOT permit, they're responsible for this. That's part of, what they're doing with the land use application there. So they are doing a pretty good job checking it. We have, kept tabs on them. They report back to our project engineer, and Rami keeps us posted as need be.
Okay. We'll stay positive like you asked,
Yes.
or like you directed, so.
Time to move on to a different topic?
Yes.
With the mayor?
That's what I was going to.
Let me preface this by saying this is not a priority of mine, and quite honestly, I don't care. However, I am tired of several residents badgering me as to why the names and things on the website have not been changed, so could you please take care of that so I don't have to hear from them at some point in the near future?
Do you remember specifically where it was?
Points of contact for the ARB and the Planning Commission, email addresses, proper names in various sections, and I'd also like to know when we're going to be able to pay online, or if there are some other impediments that we have to address other than the Square.
So Roberto has actually set up the Square, so here on site, we've got it now available for the credit card machine and everything, which surprisingly, actually, the only capability we had was running it through a website. So this, having the Square system here on site set up is good, and that's one step closer to being able to do the online. And then Martin, I don't know if there's any legal things we need to discuss about online payments.
Yeah, you need to figure out how are they gonna charge a convenience fee?
Yep, and that is one topic that we will need to discuss with council. So using debit cards, credit cards, things like that, it is going to be a cost to the town. Anywhere, last I saw, I think it's 0.7% to like a 5.4%, depending on like American Express, things like that. So if we charge a convenience fee, to my knowledge, you can only charge what the actual cost is. So that's where you need to have a pretty good estimate of what the credit cards are. So that's why certain people only accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, because most of them are
Standard
below or
rates,
close to 3% convenience fee. So that's something that we will need to discuss with council. Because
I don't want to belabor the issue tonight. Could you just have some options for us potentially at the next work session, if that's possible? I mean, I don't want to rush it, but sooner rather than later would be.
Sell it.
Because that's another thing I hear constantly.
One more question, may I?
Yeah.
Tentative date for that groundbreaking of the hotel, any idea?
As of right now, it's still September 15th, but there, I guess, new information.
No, I was just gonna add, it's supposed to be September 15th, but they've not submitted any of their bond documents or final documents.
Okay, thank you.
Has the grading permit been filed yet?
No, we don't release the grading permit until we have all the bond documents accepted and approved. Since I'll be out the rest of the week, unless Chris processes those, it won't be until next week.
Okay.
I know, sir, I know we discussed this at one of our first meetings in having policies and procedures in place for, especially because there was a new development and we didn't have the proper policies and procedures being adhered to. Is that the same way, Ms. Emily, with projects like this? We have it written down as far as what goes next or what we have to receive from them before certain things are released? Because we're trying to standardize things now, I mean, yes, for us as a council, but for future councils to make sure that there's a policy and procedure that each staff member follows as far as documents being submitted. So that was a good example. What Bob asked as far as the grading permit, if that's on a policy that's written out, that's not released until you've received all your bond documents. Do we have that in place?
So it's on a checklist that needs to be updated, and that's one of the things we had talked about, is having this checklist that, you know, the applicant signs, but we sign as well. It certainly needs to be updated with the information regarding the county and the process they go down to the county and follow for building permits, and then coming back to us for grading permit, so forth and so on.
Is there anything that you need from us in order to update that checklist?
Go ahead.
Unfortunately, I think the answer is yes. And this gets to the zoning ordinance and some of the defects and omissions that are within it. And I don't think that we're going to have a comprehensive checklist that we're happy with until such changes are considered and probably made. I mean, there are some short-term interim fixes we could do in the requirements, but I think some of the larger institutional changes that we need to make are going to have to come hand in hand with a change in the zoning ordinance that delineates what we require, when we require it, and how we require it.
Is it possible that we keep it on as an agenda item or a discussion item over the next few months to make sure we don't forget it, sir?
Marcia, Emily, and I are not going to forget that.
Yeah, but
And we are going to bring it before the council, hopefully, at the next or the work session afterwards, possibly for preliminary discussion.
Yes, and we can keep it as a running line item in my planner report.
Yes. Yeah, if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like that.
Yeah. And Marchant, you had?
Just that we have this task list and this priority list, so I think at the same time, if we're going to start, maybe do the same thing, we check in on that priority list from month to month and make sure that we're not shifting or we need to shift, because this might take a higher spot than some of the other items we put on our priority list.
Well, our priority list was voted on by each member of council and mayor.
Right.
We may
I'm
need-
sure
we may
that
need to
needs be
revisit it.
readdressed as things come about. But I would say this is hand in hand with the comp plan, and of course, that's pretty much one of our highest priorities. Anybody else? And Chris, are you done with your report then? We didn't interrupt you, I'm just making sure.
No, sir.
Okay. Then we'll move on. Police report?
Good evening, council. First, I'd like to congratulate Roberto and Kim on their reappointments, together with Chris and Emily. This is a great team. I look forward to working with you guys for the next 2 years. Thanks to council for the reappointment. I look forward to working with you guys and serving the residents of this town for the next 2 years as well. We'll go over just a couple things at the bottom. I attended a DMV workshop where we were awarded 3 DMV grants. The mayor signed off on them last week and sent them in. We should get them back and start on them October 1st. They're overtime grants for traffic control. pedestrian and bike safety, and alcohol grant. So we'll be working on all three things safety-wise for the town. We attended the Flags for Heroes event that happened this past Saturday, where I was honored with reading the names off of for the people who were in honor of. As every year, it was a great event. Appreciate the Rotary Club for putting that on and inviting the police department to participate. The Advantage Landscaping item, I don't know if you've been seeing this in the police reports, but we had a large larceny from Advantage Landscaping. Just a little over $20,000 worth of equipment was stolen from them. We had an officer on camera that passed just a half hour prior. These guys just on camera waited out in the RV lot just prior to landscaping, Advantage Landscaping, waited till the officer went by, then they walked up, cut all the trailer locks and the fences, got everything out, then went back to their vehicle. It was a box truck that was parked outside, and then drove in, loaded everything up real fast and left. They were very well organized. So we reached out to other agencies just because of how organized it was, and we found out that they have hit close to 20 or 30 landscape companies within Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William area. So we've got a lot of organizations working on this. We have very good camera footage of them in multiple locations, but specifically in ours. We know what they look like, what truck they're driving, and it's without being able to divulge all the information, it's just a matter of time. And whether we get this recovered or not, I know Advantage Landscaping has already got a payout from the insurance company with the help of our report, but we're working on that actively now. And then we'll bring up what...
If I could
Yes.
just, before the chief goes on to the radio that he's going to be reporting on, I would like to address a few things concerning this report, if I can, sir. Chief, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Chief, yeah.
Thank you. There are certain questions I had concerning the report, and I wanted to bring it in front of council instead of just addressing it as the PD liaison. In the month of August, I'm trying to understand how this number is calculated, because I do have a proposal, if the council so wishes, for a preferred new format for reporting the events to the council from the PD. But from my calculations here, Mr. Mayor and the Chief, the in-town calls for service 1,116, and I'm trying to see how the number was arrived at, because I calculated misdemeanor 8, out-of-town calls 12, summons 32, warnings 67, accidents 2, business checks 853, total 974, and I don't know what the balance of 142 represents.
Okay, so anytime an officer makes contact with a citizen, self-initiated or not, it goes down as a call. So what I'm not putting in the report is every time an officer stops on the road and talks to somebody, or if Officer Davis is riding his bicycle, on the bike patrol through town, and he stops and talks to 4 or 5 groups. Those are all calls that take the officer's time, and they're called into dispatch and logged in. So basically, anytime we tell Prince William County we're out and doing something, it's logged in. I just do the highlights here for you, the big things on the rundown.
And business checks 853, is this representing nightly checks as far as checking on doors, or a drive-by, or checking with employees for businesses that are open?
Yes.
All of the above?
All the above.
Okay.
Any business that is checked by the daytime officer or the nighttime officer, and of course the majority of the business checks are done at night by the nighttime officer, because that's one of his primary responsibilities as a night shift officer. And then any type of contact that an officer has with a business employee or owner throughout the day.
And are we still doing those courtesy cards that you?
Yes, sir. Each officer is required to do at least 5 courtesy cards. Doesn't mean that's all they do is
Right.
5 business checks, but they're required to do at least 5 cards throughout their shift.
Is there any way, if it is the wish of the council, for you to provide a breakdown as far as the officers who are doing the checks, the warnings, the summons, the responding to the out-of-town calls? I don't know if you're able or the system is equipped to break it down where we are provided. I've seen in another jurisdiction where, and I think Chief Eric Noble, used to break it down. Remember, Joe? When Eric Noble came on, he brought from Loudon a standard of reporting where he used the graph.
Right.
And it broke down, I don't think he went into as much detail as to which officer did it or what percentage that person did as far as summons, tickets. But I don't know if number one, if our system, if it can be done, and number two, if it would be the wish of the council to see what's going on more in detail. And it may not be something that you send out to us, maybe it's something that you present just like here in the monthly report. But first of all, do you think our system or you and your department could do that breakdown?
Let me get this straight. Do you want a breakdown per officer?
Well, just an overview as far as what officers are doing the checks. First, if the system can do it, and secondly, I am going to ask the council if they would want that detailed of a report from the PD. So you could come back and say, hey, the system can do it, but the council can come back and say, no, we don't really need that detailed report.
So are you asking, like, for the business checks, what would be provided would say something like Officer Davis did 27% of those 853 checks, and then Officer O'Neill provided 25% of those 853 checks? That type of detail is what you're asking for?
Yes, percentage, yes.
I guess, Chris, what metric are you trying to come up with?
I think, so in the long run, if you're looking at the PD, from the graphs, you're able to ascertain when are you, so if you logged that O'Neill did 70% of the traffic stops while he's working at night on a Friday evening, you can ascertain when your hotspots are during the town. And if you were to look at that graph, you could look ahead to know if you need to beef up, if that's the best time of the day to bring in an extra officer. Or maybe Monday morning, it's not necessary to have 3 officers here, but it's necessary like on a Friday evening. So graphs normally tell that type of detail, because that's how I've seen it in other jurisdictions.
I think, again, whatever you want is what I'll do. I think you're getting into a level of detail that may not be necessary, but when I did the rundowns every day to council, that lets you know this specific officer worked this day, this is what he did, and his shift partner did for that day. Maybe that may be easier just to do that. I just don't.
Let me open it up to someone else with a different accent. Try a shot at it. Try someone take a shot at it and see if.
I'll try and take a shot at it. I think what you're asking for is more detailed information. You've said that. I think we have.
Not me this time.
Maybe that person wanted to interject.
Call in, that's your call-in help.
It sounds as if you have the data. You keep track of all the data by each officer. So
each officer submits a report at the end of their shift.
So I guess it's a question of how you present it, so that you can get a sense of exactly what's happening. Maybe expanding on what you have here.
And they also submit a monthly report to me where O'Neill submits how many traffic stops, how many business checks. That's how I calculate these numbers. I just go through and add them up. So if you want me to include, I can include the monthly reports. That's easy. I can include that in the council report. And
can I make a suggestion?
And then you'd know.
One of the things I love to do is a comparative analysis or benchmark, against my competitors and see what they're doing. Maybe that would be a good idea to go to a couple of different chiefs that you meet with and work with and see how they present it to their council.
I have a conference next week, and I'll talk to several chiefs then. But the monthly report that the officer submits, that sounds like something you're talking about. That's exactly the numbers from each officer.
Me, I'm looking 2 years ahead. I'm looking for when this hotel comes online. I'm looking for Village Crossroads. And if we're setting up future councils for success, you know, now is when we need to start planning these things and putting them in place, because for now, when you're looking at it, we may be able to manage it now and get away with what we have now. But if we're thinking about the future, we need to start finding out when these hotspots are and when we have increased activity.
Okay.
You know, because then you start thinking about, okay, is there any point in time when we have 3 officers here during a Monday morning when it's just, I'm not saying it's coffee and donuts, I'm just saying you're here doing admin work or they're doing vehicle maintenance or whatever, and maybe looking at the report, you need to shift it to a Friday evening when you look at your track record. Thank you. Bob.
Yes, Bob.
Can I make a suggestion? My mother-in-law's favorite words, my least favorite. I think what Chris is getting at, and I kind of tend to agree with him, he sort of wants, I don't know that we need a detailed report of which officer is doing what on what day and how many citations each one issues, that sort of thing. I think what Chris is looking for, and I think I agree, is well, 2 things. One would be sort of a graph over both a 24-hour period and a corresponding graph over a week. At what point in time do X operations occur? You know, do business checks occur in the daytime? Do the arrests happen at night? You know, do more happen on Monday or do more happen on Thursday? And just sort of graph it out. From a strictly data, I mean, the thing that I think I would find even more useful, I mean, and I believe you've got the capability because you're offering this essentially in a spreadsheet form, and it's something that doesn't likely change much from month to month. I'd like to see a visual graph more than just this typed format. Just a visual graph month over month for a continuous 12-month period. You present 12 months worth of data, 12 months worth of data the next month, 12 months worth of data the next month, and you just keep rolling it through so we can kind of get a sense of if issues are increasing, and with the potential construction of the hotel and a variety of other things, do the number of incidents increase? And it'll be easier to see that month over month if we've got 12 months to look at, because you're going to get some sort of curve, one would assume, and that way, if we need to adjust in the next year's budget by either increasing or decreasing the budget, increasing or decreasing the number of officers or the resources, I mean, whatever the graph tells us or whatever the data tells us, rather than getting a snapshot in time, I think that would make it a lot easier for most of us, especially those of us who are visually inclined, me too, to get a better sense of, what we're dealing with over an extended period of time, as opposed to just a snapshot of last month or this month.
Mr. Mayor, a couple of things. I don't disagree with what my fellow councilmen are saying, but one of the things, I don't want to see you burdened where you become an admin specialist. You're a chief of police. And the other thing is, we have to be careful about setting up profile times of certain things, checks and things like that. Now I'm putting on my federal law enforcement hat. When you check businesses, obviously should be random. You know this. I'm just saying for everyone else and for those out in TV land there. Those type of profiles you don't put in writing. Correct, Chief? I mean, we talked about what went on down at the campgrounds down there and everything. I mean, they're watching. They know. They watch the profiles and then they do their thing. So that would be the only thing I would say is when it comes time for checks and stuff, we don't graph that. we don't profile that.
You don't telegraph it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's,
Have no issue with that?
no, none whatsoever. I think it could be helpful. I mean, again, I'll go back to the comparative analysis, benchmarking with others to see how they provide the information, but I think it could help with staffing. Like Chris said, hotspots. Also, it might even provide feedback on how well you're doing in certain areas. So I see some benefits in that.
There are a couple other areas I find to be missing. Maybe it's just missing from this report. Bob mentioned the monthly comparisons, which is good. Parking violations, foot patrols, and there was one last thing outside of what is written here, and it was a report that I think it was one of your weekly reports, Chief, where it mentioned the officers were on 66 doing speed checks or some other checks they were doing. And I remembered back in 2015, there was a discussion, I don't know if you remember, but there was a discussion from VSP for us to stay off 66. Is that no longer the case?
It's never the case. As long as it's
Never
in
the
our
case.
jurisdiction, they can't tell us we can be, there may have been discussions about not becoming a speed trap on 66. Don't be out there all the time running radar. I think maybe I heard something about that prior to me getting here.
There was a discussion, I remembered.
But there's no directive from VSP. They can't direct that as long as it's in our jurisdiction. And I can tell you, since I've been here, the focus of the police department has been in town. Occasionally they jump out on 66, especially the nighttime officers. If it's slow in town, they'll go out there and write a ticket or two, but it's not a primary focus of ours.
And what's your thoughts, Chief, on foot patrols, parking violations?
I can add those.
Okay. And foot patrols meaning walking?
Yes, and they're in everybody's report. But in the weekly report, it's in the officers' daily reports, everyone's. But in the weekly report, I don't put that. I only put the highlights of the bigger things that happen. But I can include that.
Because I've been here for 12 years. I've never seen an officer walk Long Street. Maybe you have, but I have never seen an officer walk through where they come and park in the cul-de-sac or at the roundabout and walk through the town. I've never walked through the Long Street. I've never seen it.
Okay.
I actually have.
You have?
Yeah.
Good.
they do my subdivision.
They do it quite often, especially Officer
mine
Anderson loves to. I'll have him ring your doorbell.
I'm gonna go check. I'm gonna go check my ring.
They're going to leave their card for you.
Tracy, you have something?
And I was going to say, in my discussions with citizens, they have actually said they would like to see more of the foot patrol, the bike riding, just to have that approachability.
Okay.
The kids love the bikes.
Yes, they do.
I know, especially in my subdivision, they love it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption, Chief. Continue, please.
So last year, we ended up fighting the battle with Prince William IT department that we wouldn't have to pay for the in-car computer system. They were charging us about $17,000 a year for the license fees to get on the computer. We were fighting that and weren't getting much of anywhere, and just decided to honor the contract, the current contract that was in place, and we're just going to continue to pay it until we could negotiate a better deal at the end of the contract. Then, last year we got hit with an additional $500 per radio. We have 17 radios if you count the radios in the cars, and then the 7 in the car, and then the 8 radios that have handhelds, and then 2 spare radios. They hit us with that, and I started doing some digging and ended up talking to IT. They misrepresented the number, where it came from, and once I FOIA'd the information and was able to point that out, and of course I brought that up to the assistant executive director, county assistant.
Deputy county executive.
Yeah, and things changed pretty quickly once she found out what was going on, and they ended up telling us we no longer had to pay for the use of the computers, and they weren't going to charge us the $500 fee for each radio. When I got the call from Chief Bernard on that, I asked, everybody has to go to encryption. The radios, every radio channel will be encrypted by January 4th of 2021. Would you guys be taking care of that as well? And he stated that they would. He asked me how many radios we had, stated that it really wasn't that big of amount of radios compared to their 5,000 radios, and that they would pick up the tab on that. It's $2,000 per radio, not the radio itself. Each radio is $5,000, but our radios, although they're 10 years old, do have the capability of just having a software flash to encryption for $2,000. At the time, we had time, and I would have included that as a budget line item to do that on our own had I not been told that they were going to take care of it. However, Chief Bernard recently retired, and now when we had a meeting with Prince William IT on Wednesday of last week, they stated that they know nothing of this agreement, and we would be responsible for this. So, however, their fix for this was that they want all the towns and Prince William County Police Department, along with Fairfax and the other big agencies, to go together on a multi-jurisdictional grant to purchase, or have purchased for us by the federal government, all brand new radios and encryption, all done at one time. And when you do grants, you have a better opportunity to be awarded a grant if it's multi-agency. But the last grant that was written to this magnitude took 6 months to write, and then it has to be vetted, and everybody else is competing for it as well. So you're talking maybe a year before you know anything. That's just for the federal government to maybe pay for our radios. In the meantime, their solution for us was that they would be willing, if they had enough spares left over, to give us a couple handheld radios. Their word was a few handheld radios for the next year to tide us over. Now, that would mean that every radio in the vehicle would be obsolete, couldn't use it. Every handheld that we currently have would be obsolete, you can't use it, and we would be only using the one or two or a few, sometimes means three, radios that they would give us, which isn't enough. So I reported this back to the Finance Committee, and my liaison wrote up a memo on what it is for you guys to try to talk to the county execs again, to maybe they would help us with this. And if not, we're going to need to come up with something to correct this to the tune of $2,000 per radio. Otherwise, we won't have communications. So I'll let Joe or Bob or Chris jump in on this as far as what the plan would be going forward.
Before Bob goes, I know you're itching to go, but before Bob goes, Chief, do you have a plan in place should this creep up on us? It's not in your budget, in making a fix come January, before January 2020.
So I have some limited funds in the computer and internet line item in my budget. I also have $20,000 in the uniforms and equipment budget that I could possibly peel off 10. That would get me 5 radios, with maybe another 2 radios out of the computer and internet line item. That would get me, 5 or 6 radios, so that each officer would at least have a handheld to use in the interim, which could be a year. And that's if we're awarded the grant. All right, so at some point, if they're not willing to pay, we're going to need to step up and correct it.
So until the council makes a decision as far as assisting with this issue, you have a stopgap solution?
January 4th at midnight, all radios will go, all channels will go encrypted, and we will have no communications, except for if Prince William comes through with a few radios, if we don't do something on our own.
I'm just thankful that you're thinking ahead, just in case there's an
And this is a federal date, or is this a Prince William County?
Federal date.
Okay.
That was
But that doesn't mean that Prince William County will be up to speed to meet
Oh, they
that,
plan,
right?
they plan on flipping the switch January 4th.
Because they'll have
2021
operating at the
at
same
one, at 000-100 hours.
And how long has this been in effect, I wonder? I mean, they must have been planning this out for a while.
3 years, 4 years, the mandate was coming. Again, if I wasn't told
Yeah.
they were going to take care of it, we would, this would have been a budget item on last budget or this current budget.
So if I'm doing my math right, we're talking about 34, 35,000?
$30,000,
Yeah.
15 radios, times $2,000. That's not upgrading the hardware, which is 10 years old.
That's strictly the code plug, that's not
Yeah.
the hardware itself.
Yes.
But you do have some radios that are unable to be.
We have 3 extra radios that aren't included in that 15 that, once this comes in, they'll phase out completely. They're not able to upgrade.
Yeah, Marshawn?
So Chief, how is Prince William County footing the bill then? While they did
So
the grant?
they're also going to do sporadic radios here and there. They're currently, so what they've been doing over the last couple of years is when they buy a batch of radios, they buy them with encryption ready, just flip a switch. So they've been incrementally getting ready for this, but they're going to come up short as well, which is why they're putting in the grant. And they upgrade their radios every 7 years, so they're on a cycle.
So the first tier solution seems to be go back to the exec and say, honor this prior agreement.
Which was only verbal by a chief who's not there anymore.
Understood, but that would be the low hanging fruit, just go back and try to get the attention of the executive to.
Correct.
Correct, and then the next would be the stopgap that you're talking about, and then the third would be the grant. Am I missing something? Is that how this plays out right now?
And no matter what we do, the grant's still going to go forward. So even if we upgrade the software, we'll still be asking
Oh, I'm sorry.
for the hardware upgrade.
So if we allocate the money now, the $20,000, you can get that credit back if the grant comes through?
Good luck.
Don't hold your breath on that.
You
Just
may
trying to
not
make
get
sure I
it.
understood.
I don't think you'll get it back, but it may be necessary to keep radio communications.
Let me ask a
going.
different way. If we buy them now, you can still qualify to apply for the grant.
I don't know how that would,
Okay.
I would think that the federal government would say, you've already got them, we're not paying for them. It kind of like you can't supplant.
Understood, just one there. Okay, thanks.
They won't reimburse, I don't think. Just because this topic came up last year when we were talking about the computers and stuff like that, one of the things, and I've brought it up several times on this commission, is Prince William is light in this area. They have fewer officers out here because of Haymarket Police Department. And that needs to be brought up because that's saving them some money. Plus, we respond outside the jurisdiction to help them out. So I don't know, Mr. Mayor, whoever would meet with them, my recommendation is somebody goes with a chief and they go meet with an acting chief. Who is the acting chief?
It's Jared Phelps, but that's not the person you talk to. It's
Okay,
the county IT department.
Yeah, and
that's-
Jared I
that's
know
pushing
well.
that.
So, but just my recommendation, Mr. Mayor, is that you or whoever go with the chief to meet with this county executive to bring this up. And we have to highlight, Jared Phelps is one that told me personally that they're light on this end a lot of, most of the time because of Haymarket PD. He had nothing but good things to say about us. So, I think that's just a feather in our cap that we could possibly use.
To your point, if they're light, how do they communicate if we don't have the radios? So
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's a circular.
And that
Yeah.
gets back to what I said earlier about what finance was working on, trying to gather that data so we can make
Sure.
those kind of arguments.
Sure.
Because we'll know how much money, we can quantify it.
Yep. Good point.
I think
Bob?
we're pretty much done. So Bob, if you,
No,
no,
no, we're
done
not
with
done.
our discussions. Now Bob can give us the latest information he's found.
One of the burdens that comes with being old and having sat up here for a long time is that I got way too much institutional knowledge, and a lot of institutional knowledge I'd rather not have. That being said, this is an issue that dates back all the way to 2004, 2005, and the initial DOJ block grants regarding communications and interoperability in a post-9/11 world. There was the initial grant. There have been a number of grants interim grants, that, they've changed over time. But the way that it was initially structured and the way that we initially got the computers paid for, or paid for by the county, and the radios paid for by the county, were some provisions in the original DOJ block grant wherein the county had to proctor X percentage of the funds provided under the block grant for the towns, and to provide both the equipment, the maintenance, and the systems and support services for the radios and the computers. It turned into quite the fiasco, given the attitudes of the IT department within the county at the time, as well as the then county chief of police and one of his subordinates. It took a meeting between the town, I was actually there, between representatives of the town, representatives of the county, including Supervisor Stirrup, then county executive Gerhardt, the town attorney, Chief Dean, Chief Roop, and a variety of other people. And in a somewhat unpleasant meeting, we got this hammered out. The issue has arisen over time. It seems like every time there's a new chief or a new council or a new county executive, this issue comes back up, and we end up reinventing the wheel and fighting the same fight over and over and over again. It is my understanding that in this most recent incident, or this most recent circumstance where the county is demanding that we pay for these yet again, I guess the assertion was made that there was no paperwork and no documentation and no knowledge of the agreement. And I guess this was made by the deputy county executive. Is that who made that assertion?
No, they weren't at this meeting.
They weren't at the meeting?
It was set up by Tom Pulaski.
Okay.
It's mostly county.
Somebody in the county made the assertion that they were unaware of this agreement. Well, one of the other things that comes with being old and having been up here for a while, off and on, is that you know who to talk to in the county, and they'll generally open the doors on very short notice. So I had to go to the McCourt Center this afternoon for another issue, and I stopped in and spoke with the deputy county executives in charge of finance and budget. And although the IT department might not be aware of the arrangement between the town and the county and the provisions that were agreed to in the past, she most certainly is and has the documentation. So she's going to pursue the matter, and I was somewhat blunt, at least in one aspect of it, which is if the communication between the county and the town goes away on January 4th, that means their officers, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, their officers will no longer have the opportunity to speak to our officers over the radio. It will create dispatch issues, et cetera, with long and the short of it being, if that's the road the county wants to go on, then they're going to have to hire 10 more officers to handle 1,000 calls a week or a month in Haymarket, regardless of what we're doing. Because, you know, quite frankly, we're saving them money. It's been stated before. We're saving them a significant expenditure on personnel and equipment on the western end. And quite frankly, and I want to be very, very clear about this, what the IT department and I guess some measure of the county executive's office is asking for the town residents to do is pay twice for radios that we've already paid for once with our tax dollars, and that's not going to fly with me. And I hope it doesn't fly with anybody else on this council, bearing in mind that we are a dual-taxed locality, and the residents of this town pay just as much for those radios as a resident that lives out in Oaksville, or for that matter in any of the other towns, Occoquan, Dumfries, or the unincorporated areas of the town. And for some reason, the county believes that when it comes to the expenditure of those funds, they're going to be penny wise and pound foolish, and in essence will place both our officers potentially at risk, their officers potentially at risk, as we won't be able to respond for backup and a variety of other things, and may cause some other budgetary issues for them. I am going to take a very hard line on this in support of the chief, and I'll just close by saying that the Deputy County Executive who's in charge of finance and the budget has assured me that she will look into it, review her records, because unlike the IT department, she does have records with respect to the agreements, and she will get back to me shortly with where the county's going to go with this.
In the long run, if we do get the county to finally cover this, I would like record of it.
Oh, I want it
So that we can
memorialized.
fax them every time this issue comes up with this record saying, take care of it.
I'd like it memorialized either independently or as part of the mutual aid agreement. 'Cause
Absolutely.
Quite frankly, I'm tired of spending time on this, and this is not the first year I've had to do it. I've had to do it in multiple years, and quite frankly, it's time-consuming, and it wastes the energy, time, effort, and money of both county staff and the town, and enough is enough. Let's put this to bed once and for all.
Yeah.
That's all I have, unless there's any other questions.
Yes, real quick. I don't want to belabor it, but I love the idea of the 3 grants, the bike safety.
Yes, sir.
Boy, would I love to see those kids do that rodeo again, like they used to do. I mean, get them young, get them into the bike safety stuff. Is there any way you think we might be able to do something socially distanced and what have you?
We can work on it. We stopped doing it because we figured parents wouldn't bring their kids out.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't advertise one and see if anyone wants to show up.
I wonder if there's something we can do in the different community, or the HOAs or something like that, just as an idea. I'm just,
Last year, before this hit, we started to do them in separate communities.
Right.
And then this hit, and I think
Yeah.
we ended up with just one in Green Hill.
Yeah, that would be great. I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
Just one more thing. Chief, the county, I know, has emergency services and evacuation plans and what have you. Have you worked with anybody or know about any evacuation plans? Have you been part of any of that kind of discussion? Because a number of years ago, and I'm getting back to my railroad roots, communities were tasked with doing emergency evacuation plans. It was all part of some federal funding. Has anybody talked to you about that?
Yeah, we have several binders. I have them in my office that discuss
Norfolk
evacuation
Southern?
plan. There's multiple, there's a pipeline evacuation plan. I
Right.
believe there's a Norfolk Southern
Okay.
evacuation plan, as well as a hurricane travel route evacuation plan for 66. So I'll go back and review those.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that liaison and somehow get that communicated to the community also. That might be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
There was discussion of it in 2015 when we had the safety committee. Remember when we had the subcommittees?
Yes.
So when we had the public safety subcommittee, we did discuss it where the chief then, we had meetings that was recorded from here, and it
Right.
had the Prince William County Fire and Rescue, it had all different representatives there, and that was one of the hot items that were discussed.
Yeah.
So
Be nice
that
to
is
get
probably-
that out so people
Yes.
can see it and understand it and know what to do. I mean, that's where I'm coming from.
Bob?
I knew there was something I was going to forget. Fortunately, I wrote it down. Without objection, I would like the council to direct the chief to pursue and exercise or execute any grant applications on behalf of the town as an individual entity for communications equipment, and upon provision of the equipment by the county at no cost to the town, to authorize the chief to execute any multiple jurisdictional grant for said equipment, but not to pursue that multiple jurisdictional grant until an arrangement is reached with the county with respect to the current situation.
And currently, what they've done is sent us a questionnaire. They sent each of the towns, each of the jurisdictions, a questionnaire of what our needs are, along with a short survey. So they're just in the information gathering stage now, and if we have already filled that out and turned it in.
That's fine, that's not a grant application.
Correct, and then they're the one, Prince William is the one taking the lead on the grant, and then once that happens, I'll report it back before we do anything.
Okay. Looks like we're good. Chris?
There was one more thing concerning, sir, thank you. The chief had, we had discussed this, it had to do with, when we brought it up the last time, trying to find it here, we talked about an advisory board the last time, and it was somewhat, I don't want to use the word hijacked, but it started being very complicated, where members of council wanted to attend, and then it had to be an advertised meeting. And I'm wondering, with just what Joe mentioned a while ago, in having evacuation procedures, railway accidents, those type of standard operating procedures in place, if the chief needs to get directive in order to review these policies and procedures, to start reaching out to the different entities, whether it be the railroad liaisons, maybe it's fire and rescue, EMS services, that he would take the charge on it, and it not become another meeting that we have to attend. It's something that he sits and he gets directive in going out and meeting and putting together, making sure these policies and procedures are in place, and then when it's ready to present it to council just for final review. I just don't want it to become another meeting, because the last time Chief talked about it as an advisory board, it was with a different topic concerning residents, church leadership, but maybe this is something that he needs to get directive on, to say, hey, let's make sure those policies and procedures are up and running and are up to date.
Yeah, I think that should be something that should be typical. There should be a cycle on reassessing these plans. I don't know what the professional practices are on that, what the standard business practices are.
I can tell you emergency I'm sorry, didn't mean to
Go ahead.
emergency evacuation plans, I mean, I've dealt with them for many years. So is Marshawn in with the military and stuff. And they're usually reviewed annually. So, I mean, maybe it's just a matter of, maybe the chief and Lieutenant Shaver may be sitting down, going over it and letting them bring any questions up or whatever.
Yeah, this came about in 2016, maybe, when we had the gas leak, and realized there wasn't really a SOP for gas leaks. So that was what kind of triggered the whole conversations concerning what's our SOP with anything that's inside the town. A pole that has fallen down. I know your officers have certain procedures that they follow, but how do we inform residents? How do we go about with the community? How does the community know what maybe that's a good way, even selling the text message service that we have to residents, for all of them to be on it, because we can tell them, hey, these are things that you would get notifications on when there's an accident. Remember when that person was killed on the railroad? So these are standard operating procedures that we need to start thinking of, or maybe the chief and his lieutenant need to start thinking of, and then we just put the stamp of approval on it, and we find a way to bring it to our residents.
Yeah, kind of a local modified IPAWS plan or something, right?
Yeah.
I will leave that as a discussion for you and Chief.
Yes, sir.
To determine if there's funding needed for it and everything else, because I know this is added work, and I don't know if we need to get any consultants to look over this, or if we have town residents who might be in the profession.
I'm sure the chief has some resources he can pull from, sir, but he and I can discuss it and
Okay.
take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for the chief? Okay, I guess we'll move on. Treasurer report.
Good evening, Council. First, I'd like to address the reports you see now have changed a bit. I planned on moving forward with no objections after discussing with the finance liaisons about giving you a more up-to-date, as much as possible, budget actuals. This reflects as of August 24th. In the past, we had 3 reports in there, which was the net position report, a monthly report, and a snapshot of the actuals for the prior month. I believe it's the wish of the finance liaison to be more up to date concerning the funds, which makes total sense. So going forward, you will be seeing more reports that would actually show numbers more up to date as of the meeting, most likely 2 weeks prior to when our town council meeting happens. Some updates on this report, as they stated, were that we have officially opened the new bank accounts with the Fauquier Bank. I plan on this week making the first transfer over from our current Sona Bank over to the new accounts. Continue working on with the finance liaisons on the budget amendments. I believe we have now got the go-ahead to proceed with the public announcement for the COVID amendment. We have also received the reimbursement funds for the light pole that was fixed in the Blight in Dogwood Park Lane corner. That'll be part of the amendments that would be added. I spoke about in the work session that would be added on the quarterly amendment. On the report, I don't know if anyone specifically has questions. The chosen monthlies. I'd like to address on the revenue side. I will begin to split pass-through fees when it comes to revenues to legal fees. In the past, these were hard to track because they weren't being separated from the existing revenues and the existing expenditures. On the revenue side, for example, 3130.06 on page 50, that is actually a revenue source, meaning that this is what we're billing the contractor or developer, and you would same expenditure on the service. It is split off from the normal town expenditures, which would be on page 51, 1221.002, legal pass-through fees. So that is something I'm trying to work on to be more transparent with those fees that we do collect and pass through. I also made notations on some of the expenditures. As you can see, some that are high. I'll take one for example right now on the PD side, page 52, 31,10035, the general insurance, which is for the vehicles. As you can see, as of right now, that expenditure is 3,609. This is a front-loaded to the town. Some of these costs, you won't see this really get a change through the end of the fiscal year. I have made notations so people do not think that we're going over budget at the beginning of the 2 months of the fiscal year. These are just front-loaded costs. In the future, I will be making notations like this to make sure that we're within the budget. At this time, if anyone in council does have any specific questions on a specific line item, I'd be more happy to address.
I don't know if we're doing something right, but this is the first time in reviewing the budget, because right now, July and August, we should be around 16%, right? 16.666%.
Yes.
And this is probably the first time I'm reviewing the budget with the monthly percentage, and outside of the front-loaded costs, everything is like within, maybe it's my lack of knowledge, but it seemed like it's just within, yeah, it's doing good, it looks good.
Yes.
You know, this is the first time I'm seeing it. And this is what I tend to do every time. I don't have the wisdom in going through the fine detail of it, but I usually just go for the percentage of each line item. It would be nice if you could draw lines across, but that's a different subject. But this is the first time going through the budget, and outside of the front-loaded item, everything seemed to be within or under the percentage marking compared to the number of months divided by 12. Joe, Bob, am I correct in assessing in?
That's the way I'm looking at it.
That's why we like it, the way it's presented, absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
these guys are all over it, which is really important.
Well, and I like to also, state that also comes to the plan of going through the procedure that you guys adopted at the beginning of the meeting. I mean, Chris and I go through these line items weekly. We meet with the finance. There's nothing that's spent that council's not made aware. And what I mean by that, I mean that the liaisons are not informed of and, in theory, pass on to you guys.
So will under public safety, the Laney detail, where it's 100%, will that be adjusted in the next budget?
It'll be adjusted in the budget amendment that we'll be doing in November.
November.
Will be, okay.
So it will eventually be part of the adopted budget, correct?
It will be corrected.
Okay. I don't know if this is the right time to ask this question. But concerning the Laney detail, that money is paid to the town, and the town dispenses that total amount, chief, directly to the officers. All right?
Correct. In the amendments, you will see that I have adjusted it for, as a payroll line at wages.
Right.
And then I also allocated the difference to the FICA, because it will increase our FICA. So that some of that portion of that money is taken to pay for that expense as well. So it's not a cost to the town, but the Laney is paying for that as well.
So is there a percentage that goes to the town as far as not just covering for FICA, insurance? Is there an amount that goes to cover the use of the vehicle for fuel, anything like that?
Unfortunately, we did not calculate that much. There is so the hourly fee for the Laney detail is $50, and in turnaround, we pay the officers $45. The $5 difference is to go towards admin, but as of right now, it's mainly to cover the FICA taxes. As far as covering the extra additional fuel, that was not part of the calculation when we did that.
So right now, the town is picking up the expenses for fuel, use of the vehicle, wear and tear for...
Correct.
Wow.
They do the same thing also for the church detail that we do, for any VDOT detail that we do, for the skating rink detail that we do, any special event, anything that Brett has 2 special events that we do. We pick it up for every single special that we do.
So that 10% that is just covering, I don't know, maybe it's something, Mr. Mayor, maybe it's something we need to think of in the future where we maybe bump that up to 12%, maybe 14%, just to cover the use of the town's equipment, where instead of charging them 50, maybe give the officers the same amount, but charge them 52, instead of giving, 45 for the officers, but charge them, So we come up with a policy, maybe just come up with something where we said, hey, our detail cost in doing a service like this is $55 per hour. And you know that 20% is going to the town. And the 80%, the officers would still make their same amount. You're not taking away from the officer, but you're basically going and saying, hey, he's not walking over there, he's driving a town-owned vehicle.
Yep.
So,
Bob, you have a comment?
I absolutely agree with Chris and Roberto in the admin's defense. This contract and the terms and provisions of how things were done were not taken into consideration, apparently, at the time that the contract was negotiated or the offer was made or however this came about. So we're sort of, it is what it is at this point in time. I think you're right. In the future, that does need to be calculated in. What is the true cost? But I guess we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot we can do retroactively in this particular instance.
but we are scheduled to do this detail for another 6 months? That's it?
It may be over sooner than that.
4 months, if
Wow.
not sooner.
Can't get a very increase.
But I'm assuming for this one, the
Yes, sir.
contracts have already been
Totally
written.
understand.
But yeah, I mean, besides FICA, do we have to contribute so much of what we pay the officers to insurance and pension programs?
No, that, so VRS is what you're speaking about.
Yeah.
That is solely based on wages, so any additional money would not be considered as part of that. So it's solely FICA and taxes.
Does
Okay.
does that apply to LODA as well?
Correct. LODA, yep, yep.
So at least those are things that weren't gotchas for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Is that all the questions? Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you, council.
Okay, town planner.
Package page 54. So we kind of went over a couple of these items already with the ARB and Planning Commission liaison reports, but I'll go back through them quickly in case anyone has questions. Lidl was here for the ARB to discuss possible design ideas with the ARB and how they would fit with the town. We will start a guideline discussion very soon, hopefully actually at our meeting on the 16th. We will set a time frame on what we expect to do, when we'd like to get it done, and some deliverables. We did also have our new members were appointed back in, I guess that would have been July's meeting. For the Planning Commission, we have had no additional information come in on the Williams Holding project. That's the one here on Jefferson Street. That's the empty lot between Details and Miss Bailey's home. Mariah's Wine Tasting Room has the comments from our town engineer for the as-built. I do have a meeting scheduled with Mariah's Vineyard next week to discuss some of the issues on site, to include food trucks, noise, and extended hours beyond the original stated hours. So I will let everybody know how that goes.
Also, I'm sorry to
Yes.
interrupt you, screening in the back?
Yes, they will be required to replace everything. I am giving them until the tree planting season, in October when things cool down. But I will make that known at our meeting next week as well. Crossroads Village, again, we've not had any additional conversations. I did have a potential engineering firm reach out to discuss a potential tenant that would go on one of the pad sites. Again, that's a little bit of speculation, but that could be coming up in several months. As I learn more, I will keep everybody posted. Van Meter, SUP, and townhomes. So the applicant for the townhome portion of the project has received their comments from myself and the town planner. I am expecting that their second submission will come in tomorrow morning. This will be delivered to the Planning Commission via one of our officers. They are rolled packets of site plans, so I'll coordinate with Chief on that. This will be up just kind of for an informational discussion on the 21st. We do already have a very busy meeting that night, but we will have that as well. The Carter School, also located on the same property, they have submitted their site plan, and myself and the town engineer are working on our comments to go back to them. We expect that those will be delivered back to the applicant in a week or two. It's time. QBE application, so the town received an updated GDP on August 17th. I have submitted my comments back to the applicant regarding the underground garage parking and other issues with the special use permit for the 30 residential condominiums. I just want to clarify, the applicant stated that previously when we had communication, we, the town, kept coming up with additional concerns that were not necessarily for the SUP. So I worked with our town manager this time, and we came up with our list of concerns strictly for the SUP. I have not received any confirmation of receipt of the comments from the applicant. Those were sent on Monday the 31st. That too will come up for our September 21st meeting, along with the proffer amendment, which was re-advertised in the newspaper last week and this week. All letters for public notices going to adjacent properties will be sent out certified mail tomorrow morning. So that should be in everybody's mailbox, hopefully by the end of the weekend, if not early next. Zoning text amendment, as Councilman Weir discussed, I will work on having my comments ready for our work session here at the end of the month, and I will coordinate with Marchant and Bob as necessary. Comprehensive plan, please correct me if I'm wrong. We were going to work on a draft in October, but I think zoning text amendment's taking a little bit of precedence.
That would be my thought, especially since we can't do certain things with the comp plan until ideally, I should say, until the census figures come out.
Okay. So I'll proceed with that on my priority list. The town has received 3 one-mile review packets. All of these are for data centers located between Cat Harpin, Route 55, and 29. The Planning Commission gave feedback at our last meeting regarding these, and comments have been sent in for 2 of the applications. The 3rd one will be sent in tomorrow. The Pardo house, that is a work in progress. I had the property owner reach out requesting funding from the town of Haymarket in order to fix the house and preserve it. That can be discussed at a later date with the town manager. Checklists and forms, we will work on those kind of in conjunction with the zoning text amendment. Next newsletter will be going out in the first week of October, last week of September, so that it's there. I will try to aim, in order to get the public hearing information for October 5th in the newsletter, I'll try to get it out the last week of September to get more transparency. We discussed the museum, the ornament, and Haymarket Coffee Company. And lastly, we have another new business that came in at the end of the week, so it did not make the report here. But we have a new photography studio in the old Cupcake Heaven building. Parandos is going in the old Cupcake Heaven spot, so I guess I can call it the Parandos building from now on. But that's where we're at. So they'll be going in there on the 2nd floor. And Edward Jones, if you see any movement over there, Edward Jones is also relocating to that building. So that's kind of that update. I do have one thing. So Mr. Pasanello asked me to get some information on the pricing for the sidewalk in front of the park. So after looking at the park plan that was approved in 2016, it specifically calls out that that number was not included. However, just to give you a ballpark idea, this project here on Jefferson Street was 435 feet, and all in it was $635,000. However, that includes your planning, your engineering, land takes, and construction. So we own the park property. It is 492 feet, and that links us all the way around to Blight Drive. Roberto will have to clarify some more, but the Villages of Haymarket Phase 2 did submit some money for the sidewalk. In our records, there should be about $10,000 for that. So we can try to get a better estimate on what that would cost, because again, we own the land. It's not as wide as the shared use path up here, which is a 10-foot wide path. So there are some variables that would change, but.
Can I ask a question on that? I don't know how the rest of the council feels about mix match, but stamped asphalt is a lot cheaper than putting down the individual bricks, and it's maintenance free for many years. Have y'all thought about that, or?
I've thought about it, sure.
I think.
I've thought about it.
I think maybe
I'll
one
second
of the,
that motion.
Yeah, I think one of the discussions we need to have soon, and I kind of started this is a document I can pull back out, but a sidewalk master plan. If you walk the sidewalks, we've had issues at Haymarket Day where we actually had EMS called in because somebody tripped. And, you know, over at the museum, it's bad. There's things we need to get fixed. There's bricks. I mean, Chris and I walked over somewhere, Ethel's or somewhere, you know, just the other day, and he's picking up a brick, putting it back in our sidewalk. We shouldn't be having that. So I think it's a discussion we need to have sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's never, you're going to have that as long as you have bricks. You're going to have it. I don't care where you go.
Well, if it's done properly, you can
Even
have
if
it-
it's done, I've never seen it done properly
Well,
where it
come to my
stayed.
property. You can, you can do it properly, but the problem that we had was it wasn't installed properly. It was installed on sand, because that's what, from my understanding, what the town could afford. But then, once we contracted, I think it was Advantage, and they did a change-out, they went with concrete underneath it, which kept it all leveled and it would not settle. But, you know, what you're mentioning with it's just so much more inexpensive and it will last.
It looks good. Look, you know, down at the Divergent Diamond.
And maybe
I mean,
as
that-
we go ahead, that is what we change out to, if that's the wish of the council, that is what we change it out to, once we start taking on the cost of replacement.
And, I mean, we can discuss that at a later meeting. I know the ARB definitely would want to weigh in. I see that the liaison is, you know, so we can bring that up for another meeting. I know our plates are full, so.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Marshawn,
No,
because I had one
it's on
other
that
question on something else. Go ahead.
Just on the, I saw the notice on Facebook about the religious assembly.
Yes.
The
Yes,
what?
thank you for that. One
Religious
other,
assembly church.
so we have I would call it more of a minor SUP request before us on September 21st. Did not mean to glance right over that. It is for over here on Jefferson Street, one of the Kennedy properties, the rear one, and it is for a religious assembly. They currently have 25 members in the congregation. They're hoping to grow it around 100, but ideally right now they're looking at about 60 to 70. So that will also be up for discussion.
Bob?
First off, since Marchant was late, I guess we take his vote away on the stamped concrete, so to encourage him to be here on time. With respect to the congregation, is that the one, is that on that parcel that actually fronts on, what's your street?
Hunting Path?
What was the question?
So it is on the back building that has the stone on it and the columns on the front that's on Jefferson, but the actual congregation's going to be in the rear portion, that the rear fronts out that way.
Entries.
Yes, you don't access from Hunting Path, but it's in that
So it's not on the
location.
parcel that is adjacent to Hunting Path then? A separate parcel?
No.
Okay. And then last but not least, with respect to the Williams property, or Williams
Yes.
Holding property, I mean, I haven't looked at it in the last couple of days, but quite frankly, it probably looks like what the wilderness looked like to the Union Army.
Grass cutting.
Could somebody please address that? I mean, I suspect there's very large wildlife in there. And some of the neighbors are quite loudly complaining about it. One neighbor in particular.
Yes, I will have that taken care of. I will send an email. The website is updated, so if you were to go on right now, all of the ARB, Planning Commission, staff directories should be good to go. So I will work on a couple other website updates. And then the only other thing I have to add is over here on Fayette Street for that bond release item, the developer was notified of everything and will be here at the work session to answer any questions that you guys may have or have a discussion.
Have the
regarding bond
residents been
release.
notified? Or is that inappropriate?
Oh, notified of what?
The bond release on their properties?
There's no requirement to notify them, there's nothing prohibited.
Okay, that's all I was looking for, was no, I would, just as a courtesy.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I just had one question, and thanks to Brother Joe there for sending the picture. John Marshall Commons has broken ground down there. Do we know, a couple of y'all may know, I don't know, do you know what the final plans are for that? Along with the timeline?
I can have Ms. Harrover put me in contact with the project manager and get all of the details, the final look of it, the timeline, schedule, and those items.
Would it be worth someone, I mean, I know it's outside of the town, but would it be worth someone coming here briefing us on that? Huh? Oh, is that, you got it on your paper? We're from the same area.
I was going to say,
think a lot.
since they broke ground, we can try and see if somebody would be willing to come provide us an update. I'm sure Emily can get an update that we can provide to you, but having somebody come in, we can always try. But
I think asking them, because the citizen, I can guarantee you, there's going to be a lot of questions from citizens, from this citizen right here too, starting off. You know, kind of what's the timeline and what's their plan. So, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to ask that they may be willing to come in. They're going to be selling a lot of homes down there and stuff, so you know, maybe it's advantageous to them, but just a thought.
I'll just piggyback on that. The new development east of the town limits, but in addition, you mentioned that there were 3 other 1-mile review that the PC saw or they looked at. Is there any way that the council could be informed as to what may be going on? So I'm trying to, since we are the elected officials, I'm trying to put us in a position where we are a little bit more knowledgeable of things happening, because we talk a lot more to the residents than the commissioners.
So if you guys just let me know if you want a hard copy of the plan or if you want electronic. I do get them electronic the day they send them out, so it's just an easy click. I can forward it on to council. You guys can provide comments directly to myself, the liaison. We can take it to the planning commission.
So in looking at, I wouldn't mind getting it electronically. So what we've had happen is the elected body, except for the liaison, has actually looked at and viewed the 1-mile review. And we have not made any comments on it unless we were at the PC meeting. And I just think it's a little bit unfair to us. And maybe sending it to the PC liaison or to yourself would be a good option for us, should we have any comments.
And I will just say one thing, I completely understand. We can work to get it to council. There are occasions where I do get it kind of later on in the month, and comments are due before the next town council meeting. So in those situations, I do the best I can, and I at least get the planning commission and liaison comments.
Bob?
A lot of this is out of Emily's hands because the planning office of the county frequently forgets that they're supposed to give us adequate time for review and comment, specifically so that the council can review this stuff. And yet again, here we are in a circumstance where they have, the planning office has decided to not abide by the rules that were agreed to, or they were directed to play by the Board of Supervisors, specifically at the behest of Supervisor Canlin. That has been pointed out to them yet again, I believe. At least that's my understanding from Supervisor Canlin. I believe he made that directive last month or the month before. I'm not exactly sure when it was, but we will be watching that closely. If you want a brief thumbnail of the 3 1-mile applications, I can give it to you really quickly. One is for the parcel with the yellow house at the corner of Catharpin and 55 for 2 data centers and ostensibly 210 megawatts of power. The next one is for the parcel across the street between the warehouses and the condos for an additional 4 buildings. Somehow those 4 buildings are also going to be 210 megawatts, even though they're the same size. So why it's not 420 is another question I have for them. And then the last parcel is actually across the street from across the street from both of them, what is currently known as the Lerner property. You'll see where they're putting in the transfer station for the underground power lines on the back side of that on 66. And that was for 2.4 million square feet of data center, unknown number of buildings, unknown load, all of which are somehow going to be powered by the magical underground Haymarket line, which apparently has no capacity so far as these data centers are concerned. It's interesting, we sat down with the representative for 2 of them, and they maintained that they could power both facilities from the existing capacity within the underground line, But then if you read their actual letter that's supplied to the county, down at the bottom, it says, at some point in time, a second or a third or fourth, fifth, sixth power line is going to be required. So it's an issue that we're watching, and I can forward you some. I would like for the council to see the comments before they go to the county, but because of the deadlines imposed by the planning office, sometimes that just isn't possible, and I'm hoping to rectify that through Supervisor Canlin's office.
So even if the comments are rushed back because of time constraint, is there any way, because according to this, comments were provided to the county, so the Planning Commission has sent comments off to the county, and the town council, the elected body, has no idea what those comments are?
The Planning Commission gave the town planner some suggestions and guidance in drafting her comments.
Does you understand where I'm going?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes,
So CC,
absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to know.
Yeah, do you have a
so
comment,
just CC
Marcel?
in the future?
This is heading to the planning commission of the county?
No.
Okay.
It's in its preliminary, it's
So
it's really early in the
So there's
process.
kind of two ways to look at it. We're a referral agency, so remember, there's a public hearing by the commission and the board. This is just soliciting comments as a referral agent on
Correct.
other staff.
This is like referral comments from VDOT, the
So
Service
before it goes to
Authority.
hearing, they solicit comments from the neighboring jurisdictions. It's usually a staff level. What's the street
Correct.
design? What's the capacity? What's the impact on the town? Does not say that we don't, as a council, still weigh in at the public hearing level. So that might be the appropriate time for us to step in. This is
If
more
we're going to
technical.
do a more in-depth analysis and comment, and we have done that in the past, it's been quite some time, but I know that we did that in the past to the tune of, documents that were 20 and 30 pages long.
I guess if we want to take, Chris, to your point, Councilman Morris, if we want to take official position as a council, there's time for us still to do that prior to the hearing.
At least a year to 18 months, yes.
So the 14-day turnaround has more to do with the internal staff deadlines at the county
Correct.
Wait.
versus,
I think where Chris is going, if I may, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think understanding what the comments are being sent to the county, so we're conversant with what those comments
yeah,
are.
without doubt.
I think that's what he's, am I
without a
right?
doubt, but I still think we should take a position
Oh, without a doubt.
later on. So,
No, that's later on, but now, understanding what exactly is happening and what comments have been made by the PC.
And we have missed that opportunity in the past, and I think the hotels that intersection of Antioch and 55 are a beautiful example of that, although I'm not sure that's actually reached the Planning Commission yet. I'll have to double check. I don't think it has.
Missing my point.
And by the way, just if you go to your emails, I think Bob sent it to Emily, Chris, and Kim, and then forwarded it to all of us. August 17th was a comment there from Elena of the Coalition to Protect PWC. So it gives a good explanation of what the issue relative to the power, the loading issues. So if you go back and look at that, you can familiarize yourself with it.
Chris, we missed the point.
Yeah, I think all of that is good, what you're suggesting. We could always make that input, go and share at the PC meeting and stuff, but because we're in touch with the residents and we are being asked questions, it is a little bit embarrassing when you break ground in John Marshall comments. I'm like, I think their house is going back there, or.
So facts, kind of fact finding.
Yes,
Okay.
just
They're
give
all,
us.
they're all townhouses.
144 residential.
But to be fair, it was covered in a bunch of meetings, if I remember, like a year and a half ago, before you came back on council. But they went through it, right? And then you guys made your recommendations to the county, and then we all, or some of us, went to the county and went to our supervisors and others to say, no, we think you should vote it down because there's still too many units. And they went forward with the plan regardless. Is that about right, Bob?
Manager, you have something?
So I just did have a point to clarify. So if you want comments for the 1 mile review, does that also include any and all plans that happen within the town? So for example, with QBE, how many, we've sent 4 or 5 sets of comments back and forth. Is that the level that you guys want?
Because I think we have to be very careful with, there is a part, like for QBE, it is not yet at our level. It is going through the PC, and then it's gonna come up to the town council, correct? Right, so that's something that eventually will come to us. But like a 1 mile review, this is our only time to really touch this document or make a comment on it. If we can be informed of what's going on 1 mile outside of the town, because we are the ones that will at times, even including the chief and his officers, be asked questions as to, I think it's just good practice to keep us informed as elected officials. But there is a limit, because especially with documentation going back and forth, especially with QBE, you kind of want to be careful because it is right now in the hands of the PC, and they're the ones reviewing it first. And I don't want to get any of that information. I want to keep my hands clean until it gets to TC.
Because that's also some of this 1 mile review, just like Councilman Schneider mentioned, you know, they could propose something and be adamantly, multiple different agencies are adamantly opposed to it, and it dies right there, and there's no, so that's the other level, trying to figure out what threshold you would like us to really forward those comments to you. Because sometimes with these turnarounds being 6 days, 7 days for turnaround, I mean, there's times that we have to provide some comments before we even are able to take it to the Planning Commission, which hopefully we've resolved that here with the directive from last month with Supervisor Camlin, but that has happened before. So I also just want to make sure that we're not providing you guys with a lot of comments and information that if you guys turn around and say something, that's no longer the case and it's no longer accurate information. But we're not, you know what I'm saying?
And this stuff is also raised within the weekly reports we get from the town manager. If there are deeper information that you would like, just reaching out to them saying, hey, what about this? I see you got some mile plans on such and such. What's the details of it? I'm interested. We might just need to be more astute of these weekly status reports on what's come in.
One thing I can do when these do go out, I can just copy, council, especially mayor, so that if anybody from the county were to reach out, or citizens, you guys know. But I can coordinate with Chris to include this comment sheet as well in that weekly report that week. But just to real quick touch base on the 4 main comments that we did send over regarding the data centers, and they were the same for the 3 properties. Significant concern for the visual impact of additional power lines to support the data center complexes along Route 55 corridor leading into the town of Haymarket. Property value concern for the residential properties that may be affected by the additional power lines. Significant concern for the health and safety of the town residents, schools, and surrounding communities, and the long-term impact the larger power substations above ground and below ground lines will cause on health. Significant concern regarding the route of additional power lines, specifically through the historic overlay of the town of Haymarket. And then one other general comment we had was the building massing and how you would get blank wall effects as you drive up and down the Route 55 corridor in and out of town.
Thank you.
Last question on this. Are they getting rid of the traffic circle at John Marshall Commons? Is that still going in? Do we know? Still going in?
That is, no longer,
It's gone?
yeah, it's no longer considered.
For real? I lied to people. I told people it was still there.
The,
Like 2 years ago, I heard.
do I really want to go down this rabbit hole?
Data centers? No.
No, I'm at the traffic circle.
No.
Okay. Although people believe it is still being built.
I still
And
believe up to 10 seconds ago, I still
And,
did.
and I still have an issue with
And
the
I'm
way.
on council.
And I still have an issue with the way that was, how should we say, approved in Richmond prior to the application being filed. But that's an issue I have with county transportation.
I thought it was a good idea.
So is it just me being a little bit ignorant? That
No.
Up to 10 seconds ago, I didn't know that.
Now, there are a lot of people who believe that.
But that's my whole point in what I'm at, the thing I'm raising.
I only knew about it because it came up on a council meeting last year, that it was done away with, so.
Mr. Morris, to answer your question, I think no. There are some times that we get applications, 1 mile review, after the rezoning, the SUP, whatever decisions made down there, when it gets to site plan and the actual discussion of site plan and construction and when it starts, we're not aware of that necessarily in the town unless we're going and seeking that information, because we just don't have the communication lines right now with the county. Home Depot, when they broke ground, the,
Home
project
Depot is
man-
coming here?
Yes, so Home Depot's going to,
For 10 years.
Home Depot's going on the far side of Walmart, but, for that example, of course, we knew that it was coming in. We were, given the 1 mile review, the signage, et cetera, so forth and so on. But the project manager actually called and said, we're breaking ground, and oh, by the way, we're talking to a tenant that may come into the town, limits or our site, legal. So, we had some kind of communication with them, but it's not always open, let's share all the information we have.
You're going
and-
to tell me that a Sheetz is coming into town? Oh, it's here already?
They're not coming now.
Wawa's not coming.
Wawa's
Sorry.
not coming
Wawa's
in.
not coming again?
No, sir. They have backed out, and it's a 7-Eleven.
Okay, I
You,
think we
you,
need-
you are aware that yours is the last house evacuated under the evacuation plan, right?
Okay, so how do we address this? Because I would like to, and again, it may be just my ignorance, but there has to be a way where an ignorant person like me gets informed of stuff that's happening.
So, call town hall.
No,
Visit
I
my
was banned
office.
from even coming here without an appointment.
No, sir. Our offices are open, and we're here
What?
to assist and
I
help.
was instructed sternly by the mayor not to show up to the town.
So one thing,
This is citizen. As a citizen, we'll let you come in and ask these questions.
yes. So one thing I can do in my report is I can add a section that is development, development outside of the town that's separate from one mile review, and I can let you guys know what is happening, what I'm aware of. There are times that I lean on Chief. Chief asks a lot of questions to a lot of people, not in the town, and it's wonderful because he's the one who told me Wawa backed out and 7-Eleven was coming in because he went to the Wawa on 29. So we have those conversations that we'll all share and get information to you.
Someone promised me a map once.
The map,
Be one personally. I can give you an amended or
the map,
I can do that.
so the map can
Oh, that was
certainly
a private
come.
thing. You can't
I wasn't
mention it
aware
in a meeting.
Eugene's left.
Yeah. Wait,
So-
stop reading my stuff, man.
I wasn't aware of that.
Eugene's didn't leave. I have it here. Eugene's moving or adding on a.
Eugene's,
They've already moved.
last thing. Eugene's
thing, we
is
gotta
in
start
Dominion
moving on.
Valley. Ethel's is owned by the same two owners and stayed in the same place. They just changed concepts. It's a New York deli that offers breakfast.
Yeah, I heard that. I didn't think they moved, just a different. Would you stop? I'm gonna keep my notes on this side.
We gotta move on. We've already gotten, 3 hours into this. So let's move on to the next item, right? Town attorney report.
Mayor, you've already covered all of my items, so I have nothing further to report.
All right. I like that, yeah. Okay, we'll move on.
I have a question, sir. I'm just kidding.
You'll be put in the
Okay,
corner.
we'll do council member time. Marchand? Yes, we do.
Okay, I'll go
So,
quickly. Again, apologize for my tardiness. I did jinx the pace. You guys were going pretty quick till I showed up. I thought I was going to miss the meeting. I talked with Councilman Shannon last month. We were talking about the vision for the corner. Was going to ask if we could bring, or ask Emily to bring the town hall master plan back to the council during the work session. We actually went through a request for proposals, came up with 3 alternatives. And actually, I think we have an engineered site plan that really talks about how to activate this space out here, especially with the hotel coming and people wanting a place to congregate. It's a good plan. I think we turn focus on the building aesthetics. I think we can still go through that site plan and revisit some of the building items later. So I was going to ask for that come back. Canvas today, my kids did the first day of virtual learning. I'll give it to the Prince William County Schools. They're doing a good job. Shout out to Ms. Garcia. She called called me directly, and I'm happy to say I'm not divorced yet, and I still have 2 kids. So she sensed that we were getting frustrated. She was a very calming presence, so thanks to the Prince William County Schools. Would encourage folks to get out and meet the businesses, try to make a deliberate effort to talk to more businesses and the residents. I still think there's unfortunately, some bad assumptions about the council's mission. So continue to do that. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, Councilman Passanella.
Yes, that's me. Okay. Well, just to remind everybody, September's a really busy month, right? Super busy, but this Friday, of course, will be 19 years since 9/11. Just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. Important month also for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I noticed out here the ribbons, the gold ribbons. I think that's a really nice touch. I'm really happy about that. And why that's important for me is because it's also Blood Cancer Awareness Month, and childhood cancer is the lymphoma is the 3rd most prevalent childhood cancer. I never realized that until I was diagnosed with blood cancer. Leukemia, lymphomas, myelomas. Never really dawned on me until that happened to me. So it's really important to understand that. Coffee shop, again, that was great. I think that was a great idea. Hopefully we can expand that and start using that deck a little bit more too. So let's get this money appropriated and we can start spending it. That's about all I have for now. The last thing is advertising for the meetings. Is there any way that we can use that mobile sign or putting a sign out here for the work sessions and for the council meetings? So we can, the mobile sign that you had for Flags for Our Heroes, would anybody have any objection to that? Is that something we can do?
We have 2 of them. We have that one and a smaller one. They're the town's equipment.
Small, yeah. Yeah,
Facing which way?
Yeah, good question.
Towards Chris's
Where do you
house,
want
so
it
he won't
placed?
forget.
Towards Chris's house, yeah.
How about if you just have Chris direct me where he wants it
Okay,
to go?
we'll talk about
There we
that.
go.
Yeah, we do have the A-frame out there. I don't know if you noticed that when you
Yeah.
came in.
Yeah, but, in advance, so people know, like a week in advance, like we're
Yeah.
trying to do. Just a thought. Or is that only used for special events? I'm not,
No, it's the town's equipment. We can use it for whatever. If you have meetings twice, if you have meetings 2 weeks out of 4, then it may be sitting out there all the time, and you may want to think about that.
just a thought. Yeah, thank you.
Councilwoman Tracy Lynn?
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to express more of my appreciation, the great conversations, the great input, everything with the ideas as far as community get-togethers, business roundtable, the events. So thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to it all. That's it.
Okay, Councilman Shannon?
Just a couple things. My standard thank you to our team. And that team is everyone in the dais and those sitting out there. Thanks to everybody. And since it was brought up, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm a man of faith. I believe in prayer. And since my fellow councilman Joe Passanello brought something up tonight about his blood, just ask, for prayers for not only him, but we have so many people out here, our children with cancer. What's his name? What's our little? Ethan. And how's he doing?
He just moved.
He's doing great.
They just moved.
So just the power of prayer is mighty in my opinion. And other than that, I'm honored to be sitting in this seat.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. Next to my fellow Texan here.
Okay, Councilman Morris?
Thank you, sir. As Joe mentioned, the new coffee shop, Haymarket Coffee, a big hit in our town. That was a great decision. Flags for Heroes this past weekend was a great event. Chief, you did a good job in representing the town. I would want for us to consider having a dress code whenever we go to these events, because one person showed up in shorts and a polo shirt and.
khaki. They were khaki.
I was talking about you.
And I had a collar on.
Here's a common saying in Jamaica: you throw a stone in a pig pen, the one that it hits will squeal. But I would just like for.
So we're pigs now.
I would just like for us to consider it, if it's possible. I couldn't find my shirt. I must have given it away from the last council. But it would be nice just having a dress code. I was asked to pass along to the town leadership, the elected officials, from a few people in Long Street Commons, that they really appreciate the transparency brought on by this new council. So I just want to thank you, Mr. Mayor. There has been times you kind of surprised me, if I can just share this publicly, because especially in wanting to add things to the agenda, the way that you have taken the high road in wanting it added is commendable. Thank you. That's it, sir.
Okay, Councilman Bob Weir.
Well, since most people will accuse me of speaking too much already, and although less than Councilman Morris, I'll have nothing else.
Now it's my time. I want to reach out and thank Flags for Our Heroes, which a few people have done. As Chris kind of indicated, I was one of the opening speeches for the ceremony. So I was very honored in doing that. I also went to the Willing Warriors Open House. That place is amazing. If you haven't visited that campus, I would recommend it. I mean, it would melt your heart and make you start contributing right away. Also, I wanted to state here, it's kind of short notice, but I want to start up with the mayor walks every second Saturday of the month. So I got to direct to our clerk, if you could please put out public notice tomorrow that I will be here at 9 o'clock and starting a walk. The walk will probably be approximately an hour walk just to go around town so that I can see what's happening and help make note of things that looks like they need to be changed. And this will be also something that I would like to get into the newsletter for October, if that's possible.
You said 9 a.m., correct?
9 a.m., yes.
Are you going to be appropriately dressed?
Well, ouch.
It all depends on if the dress code is approved by then. But okay, and that's all I have.
And you're inviting the public to walk with you?
Yes. And ask any questions they would like to ask. Okay, now I guess I need your assistance for opening up the closed meeting, closed session.
Yes, sir. The form of the motion would be that the council convene in closed session to discuss, pursuant to Virginia Section 2.23711A7, active litigation matters, two active litigation matters. The first being Blue Sky Events versus the town, Circuit Court Case 15-4095, and the Town of Haymarket versus Dottie Leonard, Circuit Court Case 11-2674. And then under 2.23711A8, other legal matters requiring advice of counsel, specifically public records, and the non-disclosure agreements with former employees.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, got a so move from Joe and a second from Steve. Councilman Shannon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, let's go into closed session. I think logistics, we're good to have it here. We just need to get people who can't participate into the police. We're back in session. Our results, Bob?
So we first need to certify here. So the certification would be that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only those matters, public business matters as are lawfully exempt from the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act and
and only those items that were identified in the motion to enter closed session were heard, considered, or discussed by the town council.
So moved.
Second.
Got a move and a second. I guess there's a vote on this, right?
Roll call. Yes.
Roll call, please.
Casanello.
Aye.
Hayter. Yes. Larson.
Yes.
Shannon. Yes. Morris. Weir.
Aye.
Schneider.
Schneider here? Aye. Well, you said it resentful.
No, I just almost forgot you said it.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, I would, without objection, I would ask that we direct the town attorney to clarify the terms of the NDA's non-disparage agreements entered into with certain former employees, and to move forward with the public records matter as directed.
Yes, second.
Okay, got a motion and a second by
Just a directive.
Oh, it's a direct.
directive, that's right, cool.
Yep.
Move to adjourn.
So noted.
Objection.
Got a second? No objections, say aye if it's.
Aye. We're out of
In
here.
favor, say aye.
Let me see if I can find out.